Good evening and welcome everyone to our meeting of full council this evening, the 14th of December 2023. Please stand if you're able, and I will ask the Vice Chairman to read the opening statement.
Members, officers, ladies and gentlemen, we assemble here again to take decisions and agree actions in the service of the people of Dorset. Let us do so with care and consideration, with dignity and goodwill, and let us accompany our right to free speech with honesty and respect for the views of others. May the outcome of our deliberations be just and fair and in the best interests of those who live and work in our historic, beautiful county. Thank you.
Start again. Before we start our meeting this evening, I would ask that you please remain standing for a minute's respectful silence in memory of Councillor Tony Ferrari, after which we will hear tributes from members. Thank you. Thank you. Please be seated. We will now hear a tribute from friend and colleague, Councillor O'Leary.
Thank you, Chairman. I always thought it was likely that I would have to make this tribute one day, but I did not think that that would be today. I thought that it would be long after Tony had retired back to his home in Sutton Point to live out the golden twilight years with his beloved wife, Erica, tending to his garden, getting into obscure hobbies like the time he once took up beekeeping, then realised he was allergic to bee stings, seeing his children, whom he was immensely proud of, and watching his grandchild that he was smitten with grow up. Alas, that was not meant to be. I thought I would make this tribute long after Tony left this body and the arena. However, Tony was clearly never meant to leave the arena of public service. Teddy Roosevelt said of the man in the arena, "Is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds." Tony was certainly the man in the arena. Firm but friendly, serious yet jovial, principled but always a deal maker. What he leaves us today are the things he did, the things he said, and the things he stood for. Dedication to public service, to positive improvement to Littlemore, Preston, Weymouth and Dorset, to good government, to integrity in public life. He was a man of vision, of bold aims and noble ideals, of whom the saying, "Some men see things and ask why, others dream things that never were and ask why not." Tony was the son of Italian immigrants born in a very ordinary home in North London. He once worked as a binman. He succeeded in both business and in politics, and as a husband, as a father. How very British. We in this chamber are no stranger to criticism. Me and Tony, being the only two Conservatives in Weymouth, could often find ourselves under particularly heavy fire. However, Tony was always unshakable, calm, collected, ready to do battle, stand his ground and fight his corner, and to make his point known. His essays in the comment section of The Echo were very well known, and who could forget the time he once explained the carbon impact of North Quay Council office demolition using an apple and an orange at a planning meeting. Tony was a private man, most comfortable at home with his family and his dog Tatty. Tony enjoyed gardening, running and politics, both the public service side of it, but also the game of politics. I've never seen anyone as politically astute as Tony. If it was a game of chess, Tony was 5 steps ahead of the rest of us. And this came from his years of experience on Harrow Council, where those that knew him knew the famous stories he would tell, always in Max Bygrave's fashion. Let me tell you a story when I was in Harrow, and I shall miss those stories. I shall miss his cunning, his savvy, his sense of humour. He always taught me that we should take the office we hold seriously, but not ourselves too seriously. I have been overwhelmed by the wishes and condolences directed towards me since Tony's passing from residents, officers and councillors from across the political divide. I will miss my friend, even if I could drive him around the bend sometimes, and I will certainly miss my mentor, my political father, and the people of Littlemore and Preston will miss a dedicated ward member and public servant. Tony was the opposite to myself in terms that he was a short-term pessimist, but a long-term optimist. Tony believed this county's best days were always ahead of us and not behind us. But with Tony Ferrari's passing, some very fine days are behind us. May God bless Tony Ferrari, the people he knew, the people he served, and the people he loved. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Leary, for that very fine personal tribute. I'll now invite Councillor Ireland to speak.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. My tribute is probably a bit more personal. I met Tony for the first time back in 2017 when he got elected for Lodmore, I think it was called, for the Dorset County Council, and I got elected for Lyndon Lee, as it was then. And we had a very long shared boundary. So while I never agreed with him particularly on politics, we did work very well on things that matter to our residents, highways, that sort of thing. And I had a very good working relationship with him. But actually, most of the time I used to meet him was actually when he was out running with his dog. And I'd be out running with my dog, or I'd be on my mountain bike. My knees are a bit knackered, to be honest. And we'd meet somewhere top of the White Horse, and we'd chat. And we had an unspoken rule, I guess, that we'd never talk shop. We never talked politics. We never talked about the council. We just passed the time of day, pleasantries. And we had a few shared interests. Sport and running was one of them, but actually making cider was another one. And one of my fondest memories of him is I gave him one of my latest brews sometime early New Year. It was a 750ml bottle of very strong, very sweet, and crucially very fizzy cider. And I told him, whatever you do, it needs to be chilled, you need to have the glasses ready, and probably open it over the sink. And the next time I saw him, he said something to me, which I won't repeat in this chamber, and basically he decorated the whole of his kitchen with cider. So I'll leave it with that. And on behalf of the Liberal Democrat group, and I'm sure the rest of us will join in, I'd like to extend our condolences to his wife and his kids. I never met them, but Tony was a great guy, and we'll miss him.
Thank you. I'll now invite Councillor Orrell to speak.
Thank you, Chair. Speaking from the Greens, I knew Tony a lot more out of any of us because I was served on the Borough Council before coming to the Town Council and Dorset Council with him, so we interacted. He's going to be really missed. It's a big loss because he was involved in so many exciting projects which he'd started, and now it falls to us to finish. But the loss to us as councillors is as nothing compared to the loss it must be to his family. So it's really sad that he's gone so soon when he had so much more to give. Two memories. One is I was on the receiving end of the apples and oranges anecdote, so I do remember that. And I appreciate that he did actually take time. He was resolute in meetings, but in between meetings in the corridor, we could have really good, free-ranging discussions, and he was very open and persuaded me on occasions of his point of view. So I thank him for that. And this final one was another cider anecdote. So it came up at our town council meeting of our Tumbledown community farm we're developing. One of the councillors suggested cider, and I talked to Tony after the meeting, and we shared our various disasters, and he shared some tips on how to make perfect cider, which I followed this autumn, and I bottled it last week, and it was perfect. So cheers, Tony, and may he rest in peace.
Thank you, Councillor Orrell. We now have a tribute from Councillor Fry.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think our group knew Councillor Ferrari very well, but the independent members of this council wish to pass our condolences to Tony's wife, his family and friends. Like everyone, we were all shocked at the very sad news. He was a good man, a very good man, who was dedicated to public service, making the lives of those in his constituency and across Dorset a better place. Taken far too soon, Weymouth and Dorset will be poorer for his passing. Rest in peace, Tony. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fry. Although we don't have a Labour group, I have invited Councillor Kimber to offer a tribute.
Thank you, Chair, and fellow councillors. Yes, known Tony for many, many years, and it's a terribly young age these days that he's gone. And I will miss him because I could always test out ideas on him and get what I thought the reaction I wanted. But I will miss him, and in one sense, we've been as a council for nearly together now for nearly 5 years. And when you're like that, it's a type of family. So we'll say from our group, well, from me, God bless Tony, and rest in peace, and please pass on my sincerity to all his family. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kimber. We will now continue to the meeting. That's my new gavel. Sorry. So we start to agenda item 1 is apologies. Could you help Sue, please?
Apologies for absence have been received from Councillor Dover, Councillor Rowe, Councillor Wharf, Councillor Carr-Jones, Councillor Parry, Councillor Bolwell, Councillor Canning, Councillor Weller, Councillor Ezard, Councillor Dyer, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Pipe, Councillor H-Leg, Councillor Starr, Councillor Knox, Councillor Parker, Councillor Barron, Councillor Bartlett, Councillor Cook, Councillor Holloway, Councillor Rennie, Councillor Quayle and Councillor Arleg.
Thank you, Susan. I'm surprised to see so many of us here left, actually. Agenda item 2 is the minutes, to approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 12th of October 2023. Do I have your permission to sign those minutes, please? Thank you very much. Agenda item 3 is declarations of interest. Do we have any, please? No, I can't see any. So we will continue to agenda item 4, Chairman's announcements. Sadly, I have to report the passing of Honourable Alderman David Milstead, who passed away in Orkney on the 20th of November after a period of treatment for cancer. David served as a Dorset County Councillor and was a District Councillor for North Dorset District for 15 years, where he was the Liberal Democrat Group Leader and Chairman of the Scrutiny Committee. In 2019, David was made an Honorary Alderman of North Dorset. David was a director of the former Blackmore Vale Tourism and Development Company, who operated the Tourist Information Centre in Shaftesbury for 9 years, and was a founder member of the Blackmore Vale Credit Union. As an active member of the Dorset Fire Authority, David was a workstream chairman for an independent review into the fire and rescue service in England. An enthusiastic writer, researcher, editor, teacher, fireman and postman, David also threw himself into helping the Gillingham community and was a town councillor for 17 years, becoming mayor in 2011 and 2014. He was made an honorary freeman of Gillingham on his retirement from the public service and prior to his return to Orkney, the island so dear to his heart. During his spare time, David enjoyed performing with the Gillingham Arts Workshop and trod the boards as a hilarious pantomime dame. David is survived by his loving wife Annie, his 6 sons and 2 grandchildren. I had the pleasure of serving with David for all his years at Gillingham and North Dorset District Council, and utterly respected his dedication to duty. A true champion for our Dorset community, David will be greatly missed. There will be an opportunity for those whose lives were touched by David to join his family in a celebration of his life taking place at Gillingham Town Hall on Saturday the 17th of February, commencing at 11:30, and obviously all would be welcome. We now go to agenda item 5, public participation questions and statements, and amazingly there are none. I know, quite shocking. And there are also no deputations or petitions, which is agenda item 6. So we move to agenda item 7, announcements and reports from the leader. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Well, you'll be pleased to know, given the size of our agenda tonight, I'm going to keep things quite short. Who said yes? Who cheered? Just a couple of things, really. I did say at the last full council, when Nick Ireland asked me the question, who are they then? Who are the other councils involved in this multi-authority devolution deal that we're pursuing? And I said at the time I didn't have permission from the other councils involved. I do now. And I'm happy to sort of say who they are this evening. I think things are progressing well. We're working on, officers are working with other officers in other authorities around the expression of interest. That's the first part of this. It's a non-binding, it doesn't bind the council to anything, but it gives us the opportunity early in the new year, probably end of February, to get an expression of interest into the Secretary of State, signed by the appropriate leaders of the councils. And just for the record, the councils involved are Wiltshire, BCP, Somerset and North Somerset. So quite a big geographical area. And one of the ambitions, I think, is that the government are now encouraging councils to look at level 2 deals, which is a non-mayoral deal. And that will, I'm sure, and what I know, the queue is growing by the day, because the previous preferred level 3 was relied on having elected mayors. And it isn't something that a lot of people in this country particularly want. They prefer the collective body that we have as a council in making those decisions and keeping that sovereignty together. So I'm really pleased that we are moving ahead with this. And obviously, as I said before, I will keep members of this chamber fully informed. And we're fleshing out a schedule of different dates of different key activities. And I'll make sure everybody in this chamber gets to know what they are. And I've already canvassed the leaders of the other groups I'm going to set up an executive advisory panel, an EAP, because I think we ought to start thinking about how we work beyond the expression of interest. I'm optimistic we will get the green light from government, that we can start working on what the deal looks like. And it'll be, I think, once again, it follows my style. I think it's really important that members across the chamber get the opportunity to make a contribution. So when we get to the chamber, when we're going to agree something, we're agreeing something that we've already had an input in. So that's being worked on. I want to just touch on the benefit of lobbying. You've heard me say many, many times, and I don't intend to drone on about it again tonight, but lobbying is something all council leaders should do, and I know do with ministers and secretaries of state. I know we've had a little bit of some stuff in the autumn statement, which is a result of some of the lobbying that's gone on. And I don't profess to be the only one who's lobbied about the freezing of the local housing allowance, which has been stuck since 2010. There have been some changes in that respect, and they're welcome. It's not enough. I'll tell you now, it's not enough, and we will be writing to the appropriate minister again quite shortly, because we've got the statement coming in a couple of weeks' time, next week probably. I'm not sure what it's going to look like, but we have difficult times in local government, don't we? But we're in a far better place than many councils, and a lot of that is due to the credit of the members in this room and the officers that are employed in this council. So, and one other thing I wanted to mention, national awards. I did comment the last full council, I was able to refer to a couple of awards, and Councillor Ray Bryan has got them on his desk there. There were 800 nominations for this award, and it's an international award. And before he hurts himself, you can put it down now. Great, you think, you know, as a council, 800 nominations. We got the silver award, Ray, did we not? Silver award for what we're doing around the green agenda in this county, and we should be proud of that. And this is all to do with highways and using what they call the hot box, where we're not using fossil fuels to enable us to have the warm tar to go out and do the job. So it'll be in my leader's bulletin, but huge credit to officers and members involved in that particular project. And while I'm standing up, I've got a seasonal message. Can I wish you all a really happy Christmas and a prosperous and healthy new year. And when I do that, when I talk about health, I had an email came flooding in late this afternoon from our colleague Peter Wolf, just to give us a bit of an update. Peter, who you know, has been quite ill in the recent past, but I went to see him after Cabinet in November, and he's good spirits. Things have improved, and he tells me he's on another course now, which will probably take him through till the end of March, but there's a degree of optimism in his voice, and I think it's great that I've got the opportunity, because he sent me the email, for me to reflect on one of our colleagues doing his best to get over a pretty serious illness. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you, Leader. Do we have any questions for the Leader on his report? No, thank you very much. So, agenda item 8 is questions from councillors, and we will hear the first question, which was submitted by Councillor Kimber.
Chair, if I just allow me to give you a little bit of background on this question. We have got a very active Save Our Local Portland Hospital and MIU, and of course they are coning very much our agendas. And this question came from them and asked me to put it forward. Why is Portland Hospital on DC's asset register as a future suitable site for 51 homes when we have already been told many times by the health authority that it is not to be closed or be developed? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kimber. We will receive a response from Councillor Walsh.
Yep. You kept that quiet, Paul. Right. Local or planning authorities have a duty to prepare strategic housing land availability assessments, SLARs, which are intended to set out a record of sites that are assessed for their development potential, and owners can nominate sites for us to consider without prejudice to their existing continued use. The assessment is an important source of evidence to inform plan making, but does not in itself determine whether a site should be allocated for development or grant any planning permission for its development. Now, Portland Hospital was submitted to us by a planning agent acting on behalf of the owner-operator, and we have a duty to report on all sites submitted to us. Therefore, it is identified SLAR site. But the details note it is a community use, and that it does not have any planning permission for residential development. The details also have a caveat that it is suitability would be subject to finding alternative provision for the healthcare. I hope that gives you some assurance, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Our second question is submitted by Councillor Louis O'Leary.
Thank you, Chairman. The central Littlemore estate that is based off the main Louviers Road is a busy route to access hundreds of homes, play facilities, a school and a very busy shopping centre. Louviers Road leads both ends onto Littlemore Road at two major junctions. With the construction of 500 homes to Littlemore's north and approval granted to an additional 100 homes on the south side of Littlemore, extra strain is going to be put onto these two junctions that are already struggling. I know the Cabinet member is aware and we have discussed it in the past, but as building is underway, will the Council commit to action on these congested junctions in the form of mini roundabouts at both ends or other possible measures? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Leary. You will receive a response from Councillor Bryan.
Thank you for the question, Louis. I know this area is in your blood, so I do understand where you're coming from. The junction capacity modelling undertaken as part of the local planned transport base and separately by the developers shows that the two junctions of Louviers Road with Littlemore Road continue to work well within their capacity, even with the additional traffic generated from the developments. At this time, and I add at this time, there is no evidence that alternative junction types are required. The development proposals include a new pedestrian and cycle crossing facility across Littlemore Road to the east of Canberra Road to provide an additional connection to the facilities at the local centre and further south. The site is connected by public transport and with active travel routes to give residents a choice about how they travel. Mini roundabouts aren't recommended for where traffic calming is a concern, as drivers often cut across the middle of the roundabout if there is nothing physically preventing them from doing so. Councillor O'Leary, I have asked officers to continually monitor this as the development takes place, so that if we see what you fear is happening, we will take action to remedy it. I hope you're happy with that response.
Thank you, Councillor Bryan. Question 3 was submitted by Councillor Borden.
Thank you, Chairman. In spite of a stunning Christmas tree and elegant cool blue and silver lights adding to the wonder and delight created by imaginative and enticing window displays in our many independent shops and cafes, Lyme Regis seems like a ghost town, which what should have been one of our busiest times of the year. A disappointing trading year, thanks to a wet August and successive road closures from early September, is now exacerbated by an emergency road closure from the 8th of November at the bottom of Broad Street. I'd like to thank the Building Control Surveyor and Senior Conservation Officer for their very quick responses and clear communications, as well as the Highways team for reacting to my requests for create road signage to show all the businesses and car parks are open as usual. However, as the weeks have rolled on and the large red road closed signs have clearly deterred day visitors and Christmas shoppers alike, our businesses throughout the town are genuinely worried. Already students have been told there's no Christmas work for them. Some owners fear they may need to make staff redundant, and others fear closure altogether. Anecdotally, the businesses are being told that the road closed signs as far away as Beer on the Coast Road in Devon are encouraging shoppers to go to Sidmouth. I can attest that the usual heavy traffic on the A35 going west from Bridport, but most of it is not going into Lyme, reacting instead to the road closed sign before drivers have had time to read businesses open as usual. I would be interested, if this is possible, to see the weekly statistics from the 4 Dorset Council car parks in Lyme and to discuss whether there is anything better Dorset Council Highways were able to do, along with Devon Highways, to enable drivers to see the yellow information signs showing town centre businesses and car parks were open before the road closed sign and diversion signs put them off continuing into Lyme. And if it isn't possible for Dorset Council to reconsider my request for an additional 2 free parking days this weekend to boost attendance at the Christmas Tree Festival, Santa's Grotto, the Christmas Craft and Vintage Markets and Santa's Workshop in our restored town mill, could we perhaps discuss developing a longer-term vision of fewer vehicle through movements in Limes Town Centre so that residents, visitors and businesses alike could enjoy a safer and healthier public realm and learn how to appreciate the benefits of a people-first town centre? Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. And we will receive a response from Councillor Bryan.
Councillor Borden, thank you for the question and the many emails I received from you on this subject. I recognise that the Lyme Regis emergency road closure resulting from the structural failure of a private building is having significant impact on the town. The residents and business have my utmost sympathy because to see this at this particular time of the year, it must be soul-destroying for them. I can also thank Councillor Borden for her positive words about how Dorset Council's officers have responded to this very difficult situation. Taking the individual points raised in turn, the traffic management signage has been reviewed to ensure it is compliant with legislation and minimises the number of road ahead closed boards that are used. I will arrange for car parking usage figures to be sent to Councillor Borden following this meeting. In conjunction with their Devon colleagues, I will ask Highways team to review the placement of existing yellow information signs showing that the town centre businesses and car parks are open as usual. Turning to the wider point about a people-first town centre, we will be developing a longer-term vision for transport in all of our town centres to encourage economic growth, healthier environments and active travel as part of the creation of the new local transport plan for Dorset. The public consultation on transport issues and opportunities to inform the development of the plan starts in January, just a few days away now. So we urge everyone, and please get the message out to all of the residents that this is going on, because it's their chance to talk to us what they actually want. So we urge everyone to please put their views forward. In addition, we'll be working directly with local councillors, towns and parish councils to get their views. I can assure Councillor Borden that this comes up on my agenda every single day. Poor Matt Piles must wonder what he's done so wrong that we're facing this, but he has considerable activity going on within the team to make sure that we try and resolve the problem that you face. The difficulty is most of the traffic delays that you've experienced in your area are not of our making. They're not highway repairs. They're repairs to SGN, the electrics, and more recently, the broadband repairs, where we're facing quite a few throughout the county. So please bear with us, and I will take your question away, and I've got a meeting with Matthew tomorrow, and I'll discuss further with him how best we can help. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bryan. Okay, agenda item 9 is government arrangements for Dorset Council and to receive a report by Jackie Andrews. And I'll ask Councillor Flower to introduce the report and propose the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Well, I'm going to assume that everyone in the chamber has had a chance to read the report. And while I'm standing, can I thank the colleagues who were on the task and finish group, cross-party, for the work they did on this. And I think I will go straight to the recommendation because I think it's quite a clear recommendation. It came from the task and finish group. The full council to agree and pause and defer the review of the governance model until such times as a decision is made regarding the multi-authority devolution deal and an expression of interest submitted to the Secretary of State and a response from government has been received. On that basis, Chairman, I move that recommendation. as set out.
Thank you, Councillor Flower. I understand Councillor Ireland would like to second the recommendation.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I wasn't sure what Spencer was going to say, so I will actually read what I've actually prepared. It gives a bit more detail, I think. So given this council, when we met last in full council, we heard from Spencer about the devolution deal, and we've heard again tonight who the parties are. And unfortunately, part of that is it's contingent on us having a cabinet system. And so if we tried and changed what we've got now, essentially would potentially means we can't go down the devolution route. So my view and the view of my group, I think pretty much all of us, is that the administration of the council should actually reflect the elected membership. And to be fair, the single party cabinet we don't have doesn't do that. That's not to say a cabinet system can't do that, and maybe after May we'll see one that can. But the important thing here is the recommendation neither precludes devolution nor changing our governance arrangements at some future date if we don't go down the devolution deal route. So I'm happy to second this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ireland. Do we have any comments? Anybody like to speak on this? No? In which case we'll put it to the vote. Thank you. Sorry.
Councillors, the vote is now open. Thank you, councillors. The vote is now closed. The results of the vote are 53 in favour, 2 against and 2 abstentions. The recommendation is therefore carried.
Thank you very much, Susan. Agenda item 10 is approval of Dorset Council flexible use of capital receipts policy. I'm going to ask Councillor Suttle to introduce the report and propose the recommendation.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I'd just like to say, for those eagle-eyed amongst you, you will no doubt see that we've got the better of Microsoft spell checker today, and I've been promoted from commercial to chimerical. And a lot of those will probably think that's a good move. So moving to the report, the use of capital receipts. And this paper recommends for approval an onward submission to DLUC our policy for flexible use of capital receipts. This policy covers a period up to the end of 24-25, which is when the current direction and statutory guidance is due to end. The policy will allow us to use £2 million of capital receipts to fund the revenue costs of the transformation work will be vital to ensure balanced budgets in the future of this council. So the recommendation is on page 1. And asking you to approve the capital receipt policy of 23-24 financial year to 24-25 and submission for approval to the Department of Housing, Levelling Up and Communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Suttle. I understand Councillor Brooks would like to second the proposal.
Thank you. Cherry Brooks, Councillor Cherry Brooks, South East Purbeck Ward. I'd like to second this proposal. I think it's sensible, and I think at the moment we need to do everything that we can to stay ahead of the curve for a lot of other councils and make sure that our fiscal policies are sound.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Would anybody like to make any comments? Sorry. What have we got? Yes, sorry. Hang on.
Thank you, Chair. I've just got one question for the paper. Is the £2 million, the up to £2 million, limited by our own capital receipts, or is it a guideline that's put in by the Department of Levelling Up? Because in my view, it's probably not enough.
Thank you. I believe I might be corrected by my colleagues at the rear, but we have up to £5 million available, and we have decided currently to release 2, so we could come back and release more. Hopefully that will. But at the moment, we only need 2.
Councillor Biggs.
Mr. Chairman, there's something that sits slightly uncomfortable with me with using capital receipts for this transformation. I'm sure many members will have capital projects that they've seen put back over the years, and it's, you know, I would rather see it invested in capital program, in infrastructure projects that live on. However, I do understand that these transformation programs are really important, and I support them. I just feel that it would be better if the government were to give us some other funding that we could actually do these without taking our capital program. I think that's what I'm driving at. And what I would really seek assurance is that these capital receipts, the money that's going into that, are not swallowed up by consultants. So many projects, we all bring in agency staff and consultants to do it. And I understand why, because we haven't, you know, because we cut back to the bone so many of our staffing. But so often they can creep and get out, and we don't actually deliver the project, but we spend an awful lot of money on consultants. So I don't disagree with this motion, but I'd just like to keep a really tight handle on these projects, and hopefully they will deliver what we hope they do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any more, please? No? I think we'll go to the vote then. Thank you.
The vote is now open. Thank you, councillors. The vote is now closed. And the results of the vote are 55 in favour, 1 against, no abstentions. The recommendation is therefore carried.
Thank you very much, Susan. We now find ourselves at agenda item 11, Council Tax Reduction Scheme. I will ask Councillor Suttle to introduce this report also and propose the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Once again, you'll see that our success against the conglomerate that is Microsoft continues, and we remain chimerical for this one as well. Council Tax Reduction Scheme, you may have heard this speech before if you've been at Cabinet, but I think that it covers everything that we need to know, in my opinion, but as you can see from the previous vote, not everybody agrees. There's always one. Last year, I think everyone in the Council chamber acknowledged the need to help those most in need and vulnerable, and at Cabinet, I brought this paper to assist further. For many years, this scheme has been available to those working, but not earning quite enough to be able to afford to pay council tax, and the scheme gave 90% relief where applicable. It's never been an easy scheme to administer, having to obtain so much information and then calculate the relief. Tonight, we propose to expand the scheme to the full 100% for those who most require it. I refer you to the grid at 3.18. It's also very important to stress that the 100% happens automatically for anyone who receives benefits set out in the paragraph below the grid. This support will apply up to Band E, and our assessment of this will be a significant improvement. The scheme is quicker for claimants, it's fairer, and supports those in most need. I recommend the scheme to you. I'd like to thank Katie Howell and the team for what is one of the most significant improvements to our council tax benefits in many years. Thank you. The recommendation is on the front page, and it's literally to effect from 1st of April 24. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Suttle. I understand Councillor Rideout will second the recommendation.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Belinda Rideout, Gillingham. I absolutely second this scheme. particularly in these hard times, and it will make a significant and vital difference to eligible households on low incomes. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments, please? Councillor Kimber.
I wanted to ask, I'm pleased that we brought this forward tonight, and I thank you, for the work you've done. This is never easy. My question is around the location of families in need. Are we, the council, doing everything we can to really highlight the news that we're doing tonight? I really ask you to make sure that all families know about this and highlight, especially in some of the areas in Weymouth and Portland. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not quite sure what you are getting at, but obviously the council will make no, not really. But I think it's only fair to say that the team works incredibly hard to identify anybody in need and to ensure that they're given the right benefits at all times. And the team work tirelessly to ensure that the speed of those benefits and awards are getting better all the time. And since Revs and Bens have been taken over in entirety by Dorset Council, there's been nothing but good work and improvement. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Heatley.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Brian Heatley from Rumble and Wyke in Weymouth. This looks very sensible, very straightforward. Do we have any estimate of how many of the existing clients are going to lose out as a result of the change? What kind of proportion? Okay.
I'm glad you asked that, actually. Not that I know the answer in the actual numbers. However, it was my first question. When I found out that it was limited to E, I wanted to know about the people in G and H and onwards, F, obviously. And I was assured that it's absolutely minimal. But I will email you as a full answer with the actual amounts. Thank you.
I think you've already spoken once and we need to ask other people.
That be circulated? Could that answer be circulated to all councillors?
Thank you. Councillor Kirby.
Thank you, Chair. Andrew Kirby, Winterbourne North. It's a very minor point that I'd like to make. And first of all, what is a brilliant paper that's coming through. I have had several residents recently that have moved into properties that are newer. And through no fault of Dorset Council, we've been waiting for the valuation agency to actually come through and to provide a council tax banding for those properties. I've had residents then that have then received retrospective council tax bills. My question is to Councillor Suttle is: will this be applied retrospectively?
Hello, Katie Hale, Head of Revs and Bens. Yes, just in answer to that, yes, it is in those circumstances. Under normal circumstances, at the moment, benefit applications only backdated 1 calendar month. This paper proposes to increase that to 3 calendar months just to provide that extra support, but that's different for those that you're referring to, Councillor, just with regards to the valuation and the backdated. So yes, we'll respect that for them.
Cracking paper.
Any more questions or comments, please? Okay, I think we'll go to the vote then. Thank you.
The vote is now open. One moment, we'll just fix it for you.
Excuse me, Susan, I think they're just playing up. Could we start again on that, please?
Yeah, just bear with us, councillors. We're just rebooting. Do you want to do it by? Yeah. Yeah. That's it. Receipts. No, it's capital tax reduction scheme. It's number 11. We're nearly there. We're nearly there, Chairman. Yeah. Do they need to all vote again?
Yes.
Yes. Sorry about that, councillors. We're back on track. So please could you vote afresh and vote now? Thank you. Not doing it. Why is it stuck?
I'm have to reset this laptop.
Okay. Shall I we have to do it manually?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, councillors, we are going to have to vote manually on this by show of hands. So the technology has failed us. I do apologise. You can. Yeah, just a simple show of hands, though. Those in favour, please raise your hands now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 10. Any against? Yeah, those against, please show. No against. Those abstentions, please show. No abstentions. Thank you. The recommendation is therefore carried.
We have 57 for. Thank you. Right. We now are on agenda item 12, polling district, polling station and polling place review. And I'm going to ask our Chief Executive, Matt Prosser, to introduce the report.
Thank you very much indeed, Chairman. It's not very often I get to do this, but as Returning Officer for Dorset Council, I want to present this report to full Council to consider the responses to the consultation on the statutory review of polling districts, polling places and polling stations within Dorset, and to approve the proposed arrangements. The Council has a duty to carry out a review of polling arrangements within Dorset by the 31st of January 2025, in accordance with the Electoral Registration and Administrations Act 2013. It should be noted that any changes will not come into force until the 1st of February 2024, if Council agrees them this evening. You will see from the report that there are changes within some areas of Dorset Council wards as a consequence of the new parish arrangements where boundaries may have changed. During the review, staff from the elections team have undertaken site visits to every polling station to ensure that, as far as practicable, the polling station is accessible. In some buildings, we will look at bringing in additional ramps and doorbells to enable easier access into the polling stations. I'd like to invite the leader, Councillor Spencer Flower, to propose the recommendation to Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief Executive. I'm more than pleased to move the recommendation as set out in the report.
Thank you, Councillor Flower. I understand this will be seconded by Councillor Fry.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm very happy to second this paper and the recommendations. I can only imagine the hard work that's gone on behind the scenes to bring this paper before us this evening. Visiting, checking, researching all the various polling venues and places to ensure they are fit for purpose. I would like to thank the officer, Kerry Oliver, and all those who've worked with her on this paper for their hard work. Happy to second this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fry. I'm going to ask Jonathan Mayor to explain to you what he's just said to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I was just going to suggest that for this next item, unless members signal that they disagree, we could deal with this simply by approbation without the need to go through what we've just been through with getting you to signal and count votes. Sorry?
Councillor Lacey Clark.
In that case, Chairman, I think you will need to go to a vote, and we will count it as we did before.
So, Councillor Lacey Clark, would you like to speak? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, and I would, and sorry, I'm not just trying to be awkward. I'm very, very disappointed, as is Councillor Quayle and the Blandford Forum Town Council, that Blandford Forum has had a site chosen that is not accessible and requires walking across quite a muddy football field to get to, when there is much more appropriate places closer by. This has been brought up, it was fed back into the consultation and hasn't been changed. And therefore, if it is not fully accessible by every member of the public, I cannot support it. Sorry, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Lacey Clark. Any more comments from the floor? No?
Thank you, Chairman. We do have some comments on that. So we've not used the cricket club as the polling station. We've used Blandford United Football Club in the past, have not received any complaints from electors. I understand the path to the football club is of hard standing, but the alternative venues have been looked at but found not to be suitable. The Town Council could also not recommend another suitable alternative. The original recommendation was a BLN 2 and BLN 3. Should you know what they are, to both vote at the football club. But on reflection and ensuring that electors cast their vote in the polling district, we've concluded that voters from BLN3 should go to Norden Hub and voters from BLN2 should go to Blandford United Football Club. I know it's always difficult when you've got a rural patch like we have to find suitable venues, and I appreciate that, and we'll continue to look.
Thank you very much. So if there are no other comments, Councillor Jesperson, please.
Councillor Sherry Jesperson, Hillforts and Upper Tarrants Ward. I'm disappointed to see that the residents of Farnham and Chettle, under this new arrangement, will have to travel the considerable distance to Ashmore to cast their vote. This is a journey that can't be done other than in a car because it's some miles away and along very tricky roads. And I think we have disenfranchised some of those residents, people who are not mobile, and I would like, if at all possible, for you to review this. I wasn't aware of it until I saw this paper, and I perhaps should have been on it sooner. But I think that is too far a distance for the residents of Farnham to be travelling all the way to Ashmore to cast their vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jesperson.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. So for both points made this evening, it should be noted in the recommendation that it's to delegate the designation of temporary polling places to the returning officer. So if there are in the future more suitable venues that become available, then we can make that decision. But tonight you're being asked to agree the list as it is here.
Thank you. Any more comments, please? Councillor Kimber.
Paul Kimber, Portland. The one area I wanted to ask is obviously they're coming up for elections, our own elections, and obviously there's going to be a general election sometime this year. If we do have failings within our own, what's wrong with temporary polling stations if people have to go too far? I know I have to swallow hard in my own ward because it's on a hill. So that's my point. That if it's too much, then why can't we have temporary polling stations? Thank you.
Can I just say I'm sure all these things will be taken into consideration in the final mix. It's very hard, as we've all said, to find the absolute ideal polling stations, particularly in a rural county like ours. But I feel sure that if you can come up with something better to advise our democratic team, or they hear of anything better, then I'm sure it will be adjustments will be made. Okay, thank you.
And my previous comment stands.
Yes. Councillor Jones.
Yeah, I'll just say the whole process of looking at polling stations started before COVID, and all councillors were asked for their views on it then. I certainly gave my views and they were listened to. So councillors were aware that this process was taking place, and obviously COVID made people forget about things.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I noticed really on the forms that have been presented that, in fact, you've got three-legged cross belonging to North Dorset parliamentary constituency, which it isn't. It's Christchurch. I just wanted comments on that, please.
Thank you, Chairman. We will take that away to look at. There have been boundary changes, and I'm looking at the back of the room in terms of that, but I would suggest that we'll take that away and look at that anomaly and ensure that we have the correct facts. Thank you very much for pointing it out.
Thank you very much. So, we have a recommendation that having undertaken the statutory review, the polling districts, places and stations are as listed in Appendix 1. And 2, the second recommendation is to delegate the designation of temporary polling stations to the returning officer. And we're now going to put that to the vote. Thank you.
The vote is now open. Apologies, we thought we'd fixed it. No, sorry, we will have to vote manually again. Apologies. All members in favour of the recommendations, please show now. Okay, thank you. And all those against, please show. And are there any abstentions? One abstention.
$54 in favour, 2 against, 1 abstention. Thank you very much. We are now on agenda item 13, housing strategy. I will ask Councillor Somper to introduce the report and propose the recommendation.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you, members. This is the final stage of the housing strategy, which has been through the overview committee, which actually I wasn't able to attend. Councillor Graham Carr-Jones did, but I did listen to it and watched. Last week, I think it was last week, went through Cabinet. So firstly, I would like to thank all the officers who worked to put this report together. It's in-depth, well evidenced, and I believed, as well as highlighting the challenges. It also is a positive document that throws light onto places where Dorset Council can step into and be part of the solution, as well as the enabler of provision of a mixed tenure of homes, seeking to fill gaps where we know they are. Ensuring the right supply of accommodation and housing is an imperative. But there is so much more to housing than physical accommodation that I don't think many people really know about. There's an outstanding team of housing officers who carry out intensive work to prevent people finding themselves in the most challenging of situations. And this is part of the chain in housing, and I want to see this strengthened. The strategy sets out the priorities and approaches we will take as a local authority, working with partners to meet evidenced local housing needs and objectives. Dorset Council has statutory duties relating to housing and also has a key role in encouraging, supporting and enabling partners and other organisations to deliver good and effective housing solutions. The strategy is broad and recognises the fact that good housing is essential for a good life and seeks to enable people, families and communities to thrive. This strategy is an important guide to what Dorset Council would do as a bold and ambitious housing authority, but also in laying down the objectives for others, such as registered providers of social housing and developers, to deliver, and setting the tone for this to be done well for our Dorset residents. The next stage of this journey will set out the delivery plans to make sure that objectives are achieved and kept under review where improvements or adaptations are introduced. This strategy was developed with the community, organisations and residents who contributed to our public consultation, and elected councillors who were involved in individual and group discussions and webinars, and thank you for everyone who came to them. It was also developed with assistance from Dorset Council's housing services, adult social care, children's services and planning services, as well as housing associations and our health partners. Of course, the key figure whose voice runs through this strategy is Councillor Graham Carr-Jones, who has spent many years working tirelessly on behalf of residents with anyone who was willing to listen to him and able to deliver the homes, you know him well, and accommodation required to meet the needs for so many people. He forged strong relationships with registered providers, developers, builders and landlords. And I'd like to thank him for all his efforts. He has achieved a great deal and he has a high standard of dogged, steely determination that is very hard to follow. We all know the positive nature of having secure accommodation on our physical and our mental well-being, a place we call home, where we flourish, lay down roots, and feel part of our neighbourhood, village, or town. When this safe place to live is lacking, the effects gradually erode our sense of stability, security, and belonging. And the consequences can be devastating, leaving people feeling overwhelmed, frustrated, and fearful. We have a duty to do everything we can to assist them finding the right type of home in the right place that fulfills this most important basic need. Therefore, Madam Chairman, I propose full council please support this strategy this evening. Thank you. Obviously happy to take any questions and answer as best I can.
Thank you, Councillor Somper. I understand Councillor Jesperson would like to second the recommendation.
Councillor Sherry Jesperson, Hillforts and Upper Tarrants Ward. Madam Chairman, this is an excellent strategy document. I know that an enormous amount of work has gone into the creating of this document. It reflects the work and the commitment of our housing team, a small team by Dorset Council standards, but probably one of the most dedicated and caring and effective teams that we have in Dorset Council, whose work reflects right across all of our residents. All of us have residents who have come into contact with the housing team and are grateful for the help that they get. So I'm delighted to second this document. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. First, we have Councillor Ireland.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Councillor Nick Ireland, representing Crossways Ward. I agree with a lot of Jane, Councillor Sompers has said, especially in how important it is to have safe housing and a place to live and be brought up. But we have a strategy here which is presented with just 4 months of this council remaining, which, in my view, basically paints too rosy a picture and glosses over the key figures that really matter. We have no material consideration given in the paper to increasing the supply of affordable homes through planning policy, the use of council assets, or borrowing and investing in homes. Back in 2020, this council's published plan, and it's out there on the internet, committed, and I quote, to maximise the use of council assets to develop affordable and sustainable housing, including the creation of more social rented housing. But where are they? The answer, of course, is that they haven't been built. We have local plan policies in place, from out-of-date local plans, I admit, that, for example, require 35% of new housing in Weymouth to be affordable, and yet we managed to build 14%. A two-bed housing association property in Weymouth recently had 130 households apply for it. 129 of those were obviously disappointed. We are relying on a market-led development, and it does not work. You know, I can speak for my group, and I hope other people in this chamber will agree with me as well. You know, we want affordable housing that will help families to stay in Dorset, or would encourage Dorset people to move here, key workers, nurses, care workers. But they can't. There isn't enough social rented housing. So we need an administration that will build social housing, because without that, nothing will change.
Thank you, Councillor Ireland. Second, we have Councillor Brenton.
Thank you, Chair. I think the strategy document is a lovely document, but I am a bit worried that there seems to be a bit of a gap there. It talks about affordable, lovely houses for everybody, and we all agree with that. But what about all the, and there's something I've missed the page, that all houses should be accessible and near to facilities and such like. And we should also protect the green belt. So in my ward, in the green belt, we seem to have an awful lot of park homes, hundreds of them, which appear to be able to avoid all green belt restrictions and are creeping over, and they're definitely not enhancing the area. And they do seem to be increasing more. Now, that would be fine in a way if they were affordable homes for local people. You could justify that, but they're not. They're mostly bought on the internet from out of county. And there seems to be there's nothing mentioned about that in the actual strategy. There is in the, the numbers of whatever we have in Dorset, but not a strategy for what are we going to do with these. Are we going to build them into our resources, or are we going to ignore them and pretend they're not there? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brenton. Councillor O'Leary.
Thank you, Chairman. I think on the issue of housing, it sends shivers up my Conservative spine to be so much in agreement with Councillor Ireland. And I'm probably the Council's biggest champion in many ways of a return to a system that worked and worked perfectly well for years, which is a return to council-built, council housing using council assets. The good Lord is not making any more land. The land that we have is currently being built, being used to have developments built on them that are very poor quality, in the large part developer-led, and then crumbs thrown to social housing providers that have no accountability to any elected body who they can do what they want. This council declared a climate emergency. It spends a lot of time talking about that. We had a lot of money given to us about that. I wish if we had the same passion and the same amount of money given to us from central government to solve the housing crisis in this county through that way, and had the obsession with that as we do with climate change, then we really could solve the problem. Housing is at the key of every major issue this council faces. The demographics crisis, the jobs crisis, the affordability crisis, the breakdown of family, crime and disorder. All those things link back to the lack of families and people being able to have an affordable house, home to live in a community. And the only way we're going to get that is when we go back, and it will have to, and it will come one day. And as people say, it's old-fashioned, but the system we've got now is not working. And it will come back, and it's going back to the way things used to be done when they were done properly. Call me old-fashioned, but that's what I believe.
Thank you, Councillor O'Leary. Councillor Borden.
Thank you. I think I've got shivers down my spine as well, agreeing with everything that Councillor O'Leary has just said. Yes, I mean, there is a lot in the housing strategy which is really excellent, and some of the aspirations are great, but there is a huge gap. And I completely agree with what Councillor Ireland and Councillor O'Leary have said, that we are missing an opportunity to solve a problem by simply saying we're not going to go in competition with registered providers. That we can do more, and we should be much more ambitious. And if you look at the on the printed copy, it's page 317. This is what our people want us to do. Top of the list, building more social and affordable housing for rent. I also note that on the fourth most popular was the design of new homes to improve energy efficiency, reduce environmental impact, protect natural environment, and be easier to adapt to changing needs. And I think that's a second opportunity that's been missed. If we're saying, as I think we are, that I've lost my screen. I think it was 23%. I can't remember in the Nature Recovery Climate and Ecological Strategy. 23% or so is on domestic heating. This is the opportunity in the housing strategy to get it right, to make sure that all of our new builds, and that we put the effort and the energy into making sure that our homes are warm, well insulated, and powered by renewable energy where possible. There are two huge gaps that are missing from this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Borden. Councillor Took.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor David Took from Cranbourne and Oldholt. I read with interest the minutes of the People and Health Overview Committee, where they were asking to say that we would be a registered provider, and that we would provide where other registered providers could not. And it seems that that recommendation from the Overview Committee has got missed out in the Cabinet report, or ignored by Cabinet. So I'm just wondering what's happened to it, and why this council is not prepared to act as a registered provider in its own right, because I believe we actually are a registered provider. The there was a comment to say that the following be added to the end of paragraph 2.5 of the cover report that went to that committee to say that as a registered provider, we will seek to provide housing that is not currently provided by registered providers. We will also be open to consider Section 106 housing where no registered provider is identified. Has that not been carried through to this report? And if not, why not? Because I actually find myself, for once, in agreement with Councillor O'Leary. And it reminiscent of yeah, yes. But I'd just like to know, if that's not been carried through, why Cabinet did not carry that through? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Took. I believe we have got a response for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you. We did address this at Cabinet. The reference that you are making was a suggestion by Councillor Legg on the report and not on the strategy itself. But putting that to one side, we are a registered provider. We do fill in many gaps. But Section 106 in particular, just to focus on that, would be too narrow. There are developments which are built where there are particular or certain numbers of homes which are put forward as potential for registered providers. Isn't that Section 106? And there is a reason why they aren't taken up. And that will be around a business case, potentially, that the developer is asking excessive amount, potentially. It may well be about the standard of the actual dwelling itself. So we would look at all things and all properties, and we would work on those as a business case each time. But to have it as a blanket would set a precedent that would perhaps be the wrong one. We wouldn't want to be buying properties over market value or extensive. We wouldn't want to be buying properties that are not the right condition for people to be living in. So it was quite narrow, but it was just about the report. It wasn't relevant to the actual strategy itself. So I hope that's clear. Obviously, if you want me to expand on that, I can do that for you in writing, just to be really clear and set out those issues. I think some of the questions or some of the points that have been made as well, really relevant to planning policy. So I don't know if Councillor Walsh wishes to comment, or don't want to drop you in it. If you want to comment. Oh, right, okay.
You're on the list, Councillor Walsh. Next up, we have Councillor Kimber.
Thank you, Chair. Fellow councillors, Councillor Paul Kimber, Portland. If I could move an amendment tonight, I would be obviously calling for council housing. But will the council and the officers please take note, the desire of this council is to see council housing back on the agenda. And I congratulate Louis O'Leary for raising it, so it comes right across this floor. The residents of also another form of housing, the residents of Bridport showed us there was, and possibly housing co-ops was also an answer as well to our situation. So why I'm saying this is that we need more of a spread of ideas. I know all of us, and I'd love to see our cabinet member there with the scissors and a piece of blue silk, would it be? I would give you a piece of red silk, but just opening that first council house, giving in someone the key. So please, 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 let this council really take note of this request. It's across the floor, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Kimber. We have 3 other people wishing to speak, but in the meantime, Councillor Somper would like to respond.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Kimber. I have actually recently cut a ribbon at a, yes, I have. Can't remember what the colour was, I'm afraid. In North Dorset, in Oakford Fitzpaine, on a development of 30 units, 100% affordable homes in a rural setting. 100% affordable homes and mix of shared ownership and tenancies. It's a really impressive development, really high standard quality. But just to really point out, I suppose, that the direction of travel is set by this strategy. But the delivery plan, which is what will be coming forward, is the crucial part, and it will tackle big and bold challenges, and we will have to look at all possibilities.
Thank you. We'll now return to my list. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I find myself agreeing with quite a lot of what people are saying. But I think one of the things we have to be looking at is there are so many changes coming through national government at the moment. And next week, we're waiting for the revised MPPF, which is going to be a huge document. And that is going to be looking at things like Greenbelt, which people will be pleased to hear about. Now, I totally support this strategy because I think it's going in the right direction. It's not there yet. It's not. But this is a living document. And all the things you're talking about are it's not right at this minute. It isn't right at this minute, but it will be. I've been championing at every level, local, regional and national, on affordable housing. Everybody's fed up with me talking about affordable housing, every type. Developers, when you say they're going to do 23%, they'll go for their template of social housing to rent. That's not just what we want. We want affordable. People want affordable to buy. There are many different types to do this. Now, I work very closely with highways. Planning and highways is logical. We've broken down a lot of silos. Now, I worked with Graham Carr-Jones for many years in North Dorset, and I'm now working with Jane Somper because it's imperative that planning and housing work together also. And that's not because all of these things are going to be new build, but planning are needed to do reuse and change of use. You need to go through planning. There isn't one single fix here. That is why this document has to be a living document, because it must change constantly. And like I say, it's got to change next week when the MPPF comes out again. There are so many things that are happening here, but I totally support the ethos behind this. And how can anyone not support a document that at the beginning, the vision to ensure our residents have access to affordable, suitable, secure homes where they can live well as part of the sustainable and thriving communities? Isn't that what every one of us is here to support and bring to our residents? Yes, it is. No, it's not here now, it's not here today, but it will be. And if we all work together across, I'm pleased that people keep saying cross parties, cross the floor. Yes, because we all want the same thing for our residents. And they've told us what they want in the consultation document. We know what sort of houses they want. Now it's down to us to deliver. And we can deliver that through the developers, and that's through working closely with the developers. High quality housing in the right place. That's what we've said all the way along. One of the issues we have, and it's not an excuse, is nutrients and nitrates. Now, we know we've got 5 catchment areas in Dorset that have been holding up planning. We've got 2,500 houses long-term hold up in planning permissions. They're just waiting for us to get to. And I'm not going to ruin his, well, I probably am going to ruin his chance to be greater than he is. But I know the leader is lobbying government on that nutrient nitrates issue now. I've seen the letter. It's a brilliant way forward. It's a way we've got to go. Government have got to listen to us. And I want to say again that through the planning changes that we've had and through the MPPF, government have listened to Dorset. They have listened to what our council has said. So I have great faith that this is going to be the way forward. And I totally support this housing strategy from where it is, the start it's going for, and where it aims to be. I think it's fantastic that we're all agreeing and disagreeing in the same places. We know what we need, we know what isn't being delivered, we know what we have to do to get it delivered, because that is so important to our residents. So I hope that you'll be able to support this with me, because it's imperative we have a starting point for this moving feast.
Thank you. Councillor Christopher.
I must apologise to Councillor Spencer Flower and also to Councillor David Walsh for not mentioning this previously. I refer to point 2.8, sustainable development and improving existing homes that are well connected to places of employment, education, care and other community facilities supports economic growth. We can all read. Representing the Marshwood Vale ward as I do, I did find the wording of 2.8 perhaps might confuse readers in that it suggests only improving existing homes in connection with sustainable development, when clearly we who believe in an aspirational society would actually wish to see improvements in respect of all housing in many ways, whether energy conservation or otherwise, and I just feel that perhaps, and I do apologise to Councillor Flower, that could be better written. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Christopher. Councillor Taylor.
Life's always confusing with two Taylors in the room. I'm not related, by the way. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman, for allowing me to speak. As you'll all be aware, I'm the shadow housing portfolio holder on Dorset Council, therefore I feel I need to speak on this. I'm listening to comments right the way across the room on this, and it seems to me that there's an awful lot of people, a lot of councillors in this room, who are talking about the need for this council to be building houses. I'm just looking around at the amount of nods that I'm getting on both sides of the chamber at the moment. I think it's something that we really should consider. This paper today, we're only being given the option of approving it as it is. We're not really being given the option to amend it. So can I make a suggestion as a proposal that we defer voting on this paper tonight and we return it to the overview committee to ask them to do a further piece of work to look at how this council can develop housing. Absolutely. I think we're not going to be in a position, we will all vote for it, but I think we're in a position that we're not all content with it, and that concerns me greatly. If I can, I don't know whether I would need a seconder for a deferral or how that would actually work, but it looks as if I've got quite a few seconders across the chamber. And if you would consider that, I'd be really grateful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Taylor. Councillor David Taylor.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me speak. The article that's really bringing up is just what has just been spoken about, Councillor Christopher just then, was about Article 2.8, was stating, in fact, it's sustainable development, improving existing homes for well-connected places of employment. The national wage in this county is about £25,000. If you think you can buy a house at £25,000, you've got a long thing coming. There is no way you can buy a house in this county. So therefore, looking at development as well, you're looking at developers wanting to build housing and then fighting us to the courts to making sure they don't provide affordable housing. It has happened many times before. This document is wrong. It needs to be reviewed. I don't like it. There's a lot more to be improved on it. There are some good points, but there are also some bad points. And I do understand the concern with Councillor Walsh, but the fact we are fighting for it, but we need to fight a bit harder. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. We are going on to Councillor Lacey Clark.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Lacey Clark from Blandford Forum Ward. I just wanted to ask a question directly to Councillor Somper, because whilst I think we've all got a very clear idea, we agree, let's build our own houses, that'd be fantastic, that's something we should definitely look into. We're doing that through Homes Dorset, aren't we? Don't we have the mechanism to be able to build our own homes and to actually work on that? I know Wiltshire, our neighbouring authorities, built, what, over 5,000 of their own homes now? And it's something that isn't new, and actually it's not part of necessarily of this report. This report is totally separate to us building our own as part of Homes Dorset. So I don't want to defer this and put this off, when actually I think what people are asking for is to have more involvement with the Homes Dorset scheme and actually look at us building our own in the future. I don't think we should not do this so we can do that when both are on the table.
Thank you, Councillor Lacey Clark. Councillor Suttle.
Sorry to bring it down to money, but that's the way it goes. So I don't see this document as saying we won't build council houses in the future, because that's probably long-term good outcome. However, if you take the type of commitment we're talking about here in terms of finance, it is the biggest thing that this council would embark upon. So let's take, I'll give you an example, which has only happened this evening, I think, is that Eastleigh Council decided they'd build 3,000 council houses. Very commendable. What a fantastic idea. Tonight, they are having to ask for an additional £162 million because they haven't been able to build them within budget. And that will mean that every household in Eastleigh owes £8,700 to ensure that those houses are built. And that still might not be enough. So what I'm trying to say is, I personally am not against building council houses. However, the piece of work that would be required to enable us to do that would be enormous. The commitment from this council in terms of capital and other grants, government or whatever, would be the biggest thing we've ever embarked upon. And you're not going to get that tonight. The document, there's nothing wrong with the document. I can see, and I find myself agreeing, unfortunately, with Councillor Bowden, Councillor O'Leary, but various other people, and including Councillor Lacey Clark. But if you want to do this work, maybe we can in the new, because we're not going to do it, are we, before May? Maybe the new council will decide that that's the piece of work it wants to do. But what I'm trying to say, really, is that it would be this enormous financial change for policy. Okay? But I'm going to vote for the document. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Suttle. Councillor Tarr.
I'd like to agree with a lot of what's been said so far. There's no point repeating it. I work very closely with Councillor O'Leary. We share a common boundary. We agree, I think, on everything that we come across. We solve those problems together. And I think that's really good that all the parties can work together. The thing that worries me about all this is the statement that we can stop not building houses because of the pollution of Poole Harbour and Sedgemoor and the River Wey, which is going to be quite badly polluted in due course. I've cycled around my ward over the last few days. I've been up to 6 inches deep on my bicycle in sewage, raw sewage, admitted by Wessex Water. They are trying to solve the problem. We should not be building any more houses in those valleys until that problem is solved. And I can't see it being solved in the next 12 months or 2 years, maybe 18 months, if they really got working on it. So I think it's important that we do not just override that rule. It was a rule that was brought in to stop the rivers of Europe getting polluted. We're trying to get rid of the rule now. We should not get rid of that rule.
Thank you very much. Councillor Kirby.
Thank you, Chair. Speaking twice tonight, what a treat. Andrew Kirby, Winterville North Ward. First of all, I'd like to say that I do agree with this document. It's a good document, and there's been many good comments today. I think what I picked up on earlier is that someone mentioned it was a living document. And for me, that's really important, that it's continuously changed and modified over time. And that's also quite important for me now because I'd like to add to it and I'd like to change it and I'd like to push things that I believe are important. So there we go. So Councillor Somper, so here's one for you. So first of all, like we know that Dorset has an ageing population. Some may say that it's a demographic emergency. But I believe that those that are older, that have contributed to society through their lives, are entitled to that care and support. But for that to happen, we need residents, we need key workers, and we need people to actually go out and do the care. So where I'm slightly concerned about is that as a county, we struggle to fill our key worker positions, our carers, our nurses and our doctors, and we have residents that come to us day in and day out about that. And partially, I always feel as if it's a bit of a double-edged sword living in such a beautiful area. We pay for that by having what David said, is probably one of the worst incomes to affordability ratios. And I think that is caused potentially by our natural beauty, by our second homes and by people coming through. I won't use the G word, but there we go. I do feel, Councillor Somper, that this is a really good document. It does identify key workers in several places, but it doesn't really have any direct actions for it. So I think what I would like to do, it identifies key workers, but there's nothing in the paper that really is specific for key workers. Here we go. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Kirby. We have Councillor Gray, and then we're going to deal with the proposal to defer, and then we're going to go back to Councillor Somper. We still have 8 items on the agenda this evening, and I think we've given that quite a good airing. So, Councillor Gray, please.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Gray, Raleigh Pole, Weymouth. It does seem to me that that there's been quite a lot of support in the chamber tonight around some form of social or council housing. I think what we're arguing about is, if this is a strategy document, why isn't it in there? Yeah. It's all right saying it's a living document, but if it's not your first thought, why isn't it in there? And I won't vote for it. Councillor Somper knows that I supported large parts of that through Cabinet, but it really doesn't address the cracks. It really doesn't. And housing providers there'll always be gaps. For every story that Councillor Suttle can give us about Eastleigh and the financial crisis that is in, I could give you 20 of councils that have built council houses, have funded them, either in partnership or with Homes England or somebody, that are successful. So yes, there are some faux pas, but there is a way of doing this. And whilst Councillor Somper's put lots in this, and there is some good stuff in there, it really doesn't go far enough, in my view. And for the second time tonight, I find myself thinking paper lacks ambition. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gray. So, Councillor Taylor made a recommendation for deferral, which was peppered by lots of hands. So I'm not sure who seconded that.
Sorry, let me just clarify what she...
Sorry, could you just clarify? Yes, we'll ask Jonathan to ask the question.
I think it's as straightforward as a request, Councillor Taylor, that you clarify precisely what it is that you're asking the Council to agree in your amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm asking Council to defer approving this paper and to put it back to the Overview Committee for People and Health to review the possibility of having inclusion of Dorset Council becoming a house builder.
It's already one.
Sorry?
It's already.
Do you have a seconder for that? It's the dynamic duo Taylors then. Absolutely. Thank you. We will now vote on the amendment to defer.
Thank you, councillors. We're going to give it another go. Please vote now. Councillor Robinson, would you mind voting for us again, please? 55. Thank you. And Councillor Rowland Tarr, would you mind voting for us again, please? Yeah, we're done. Yeah. Thank you. The vote is now closed. The results of the vote for deferral: 23 in favour, 33 against, 1 abstention. Therefore, the motion is lost.
Thank you, Susan. So I'm going to return to Councillor Somper for her to respond to some of the statements and questions that have been made. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'm happy to go straight to the vote, but I would just like to say this went to overview on the 30th of November, where opportunity was to make these sorts of suggestions, and they didn't.
Thank you. So we will now go to the vote on the original recommendation. Thank you very much.
The vote is now open.
Who seconded?
Councillor Brenton, could you vote for us again, please? Thank you. Councillor Harrison, could you vote for us again, please? Yeah. Thank you, everyone. The vote is now closed. The results of the vote are 38 in favour, 15 against, 5 abstentions. The motion is therefore carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Susan. Right, let's get rid of these stickers. We are now on agenda item 14, licensing policy review. I'm going to ask Councillor Beddoe to introduce the report and propose the recommendation.
Thank you, Chairman. So this is a recommendation from Licensing Committee, and it recommends that full council approve the retention of the cumulative impact area. Included in the agenda is the Statement of Licensing Policy review of the cumulative impact area from the 28th of November Licensing Committee. We have to publish a Statement of Licensing Policy at least every 5 years. And the statutory guidance advises that any cumulative impact area within the policy is reviewed as a minimum every 3 years. The statement of the licensing policy only contains one cumulative impact area in Weymouth Town Centre. There's been a consultation. We've included the results in the report to licensing. They have recommended the retention of the area. The detail is in the report from the Licensing Committee. Thank you to the excellent John Newcombe for his work on this, and also to Councillor Emma Parker, who is unfortunately unwell, but is absolutely brilliant and all over licensing. So I'm very happy to recommend that Council recommend the recommendation from the Licensing Committee to full Council. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you very much, Councillor Beddoe. I have a request to speak from Councillor Orrell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Councillor Orrell from Melcombe, this is my area. It's been a very successful policy. We did have a problem a few years ago, late at night and in the early morning. This policy has been excellent. It's empowered officers to be able to guide new entrants to the market. Some have proceeded, some haven't, and it's given us the tools to help improve it's worked. The police have reported back it's working. So we just need to keep it going for a few more years. So I thoroughly support it and recommend it. Thanks.
Are you seconding this proposal, Councillor Orrell? No. I believe John Andrews might be seconding this proposal.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, John Andrews from Sherborne, most beautiful town in Dorset. Just thought I'd mention that. Shane Bartlett's not here this evening. Recommended by Licensing Committee on the 28th of November. Excellent report, once again, from John Newcombe, Aileen Powell and the team in licensing, who do a grand job. And sorry, Emma Parker can't be here to second it tonight, but she's not very well. So shame she isn't, because she is an excellent chairman of licensing. So, yes, thoroughly recommend or second this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews, for seconding the proposal. Anyone would like to say anything about this? Or shall we go straight to the vote? Okay, thank you. We'll do that.
The vote is now open. Thank you, everyone. The results of the vote are 58 in favour, no votes against, no abstentions. The policy is carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was tidy. So, agenda item 15 is the gambling policy, and I'm going to ask Councillor Beddoe to introduce this one as well.
Thank you, Chairman. So under the Gambling Act 2005, we are the licensing authority, and we are required to publish a statement of gambling licensing policy at least every 3 years. The purpose of the policy is that we define how the council will exercise our responsibilities under the Act. We've published the revised policy in draft format. It's been consulted on, and basically the recommendations, hang on a minute, from Licensing Committee are that we adopt the draft statement. Just to draw attention to a couple of amendments. They're very minor. Some updated contact details, a couple of grammatical amendments, some text added in response to feedback from the Pan Dorset Safeguarding Children Partnership, and a little bit of extra text added in relation to the licensing authority's enforcement approach to gambling. So some minor amendments, essentially a refresh of a very sensible policy that we are required to have. Happy to refer any questions directly to John Newcombe. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beddoe. Do I understand that Councillor Andrews is going to second this one too? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I happily second this recommendation. As before, thank you everybody for the excellent work they do. John Newcombe, our excellent service manager for licensing and community safety, has done an exemplary job on this one once again. So thank you very much. I'll second it.
Thank you. If we have no one with a burning desire to speak, we're going to go straight to the vote. Thank you.
The vote is now open. Councillor Borden, would you mind voting for us again, please? And Kelvin Clayton, if you could vote again. And Councillor Harrison, if you could vote again. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. The vote is now closed. And the results of the vote are 58 in favour. The recommendation is therefore carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and congratulations and well done to John Newcombe. Everybody's very impressed with your work. Thank you. Agenda item 16, review of timing of committee meetings. I'm going to ask Councillor Flower to introduce the report and propose the recommendation.
Thank you very much, Chairman. First of all, I'd like to remind everyone that we have had a task and finish group that's gone through this thoroughly. I was on it. I had to miss one meeting because of other commitments, but I'd like to thank the cross-party task and finish group. It's never an easy job, is it? Doing things like this, changing times or dates or whatever of meetings. But I hope we'll take what we've got before us on face value. And Chairman, I'd like to ask that we take each individual A to E set as separate votes, because I don't think it's right to do it on block. I think there will be views one way or another on the acceptability of some of these timings. But I hope colleagues, as I say, will take it at face value to move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Flower. Councillor Bryan. Did you want to second this recommendation, please?
Are you calling me, Chairman? Yes. Yeah, sorry. It's all right. I was reading something on the report. Yeah, I'm very happy to support this, but like Councillor Flower has already said, there are certain elements that I have some concerns over, so I would like to see it done on an individual basis. Thank you.
Councillor Sutton.
On this, but and I don't want to waste everyone's time with an amendment, so I just want to clarify something first. The one about full council meetings being held in the daytime in winter, I want to oppose that. Rather than submitting an amendment, I want to clarify, if a majority votes against that, I assume the arrangements stay as they are. Is that correct? Okay, shall I carry on speaking with what else I've got to say? Or yeah. Okay, thank you. I understand this is a tricky compromise, but I'd like to make a few points. In the age bracket element of our equality survey of members, elected members in 2019, of 71 respondees, 73% were 55 and over, and 38% were 65 and over. And assuming an even age distribution, this would be about 55% of us now who are over 65. I do not in the least denigrate the abilities of some of our older members, and of course at this point I have to do a nod to my favourite older member, Brian, who is of course utterly fabulous. But this is a very poor representation overall of our residents age-wise. Whilst the survey of current members is relevant, it potentially reproduces more of the same. If we really want this council to represent Dorset's residents' interests better and to ensure that people with skills and experience who also have a day job feel able to stand, at the very least, full council should be held in the evening all year round. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sutton. Councillor Lacey-Clark.
Thank you, Chairman. Similar to Councillor Suttle, before I start speaking, so I know we're taking every point on length, so I assume we'll get to speak on each point individually as they've gone through. I would like to clarify, if the third item, Cabinet being held in the evening, is agreed, then Cabinet's in the evening in the future, in the summer. If the winter one fails, does it revert to the 10 a.m. one we currently have? Or how do we get that to revert to 6:30 in the evening as an option? Or would that mean that we have it first thing in the morning in the winter and last thing at night in the summer? I just wanted some clarification on that before we speak.
If the new suggestions are not supported, it goes back to the status quo.
In which case, Chairman, if this answers the question, then I would like to move an amendment that we change the wording in item D. So during the period of Greenwich Mean Time, Cabinet will be held at 6:30 p.m, November, December, January and March. You don't want it in the evening?
If you don't mind, Councillor, given that we're going to do them one at a time, I'd rather not leap ahead because I'll just get confused, if that's okay. Thank you. So I've got Councillor Parks next.
Thank you, Chairman. I actually welcome the move to bring meetings forwards. Those of us who have to travel from one side of the county to other have to leave just before 4 o'clock, which doesn't give us time to have food or anything, and we get home at 10, 11 o'clock at night after these meetings. So actually, to bring it forward to 2 o'clock in the afternoon really, to me, makes common sense. And what I was disappointed was that it's only for part of the year. So if we do that, I would like to see it come for the whole year, and let's be consistent right the way through, whichever time we set our meetings, let's just be consistent for the whole year. But, you know, travelling this time of year in the dark, you leave home in the dark, you go home in the dark, having not eaten, sitting for 3 or 4 hours of meetings, it's just not good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Parks. Councillor Hope.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Councillor Ryan Hope, representing the Western Ward in Weymouth. I know Councillor Sutton said she didn't want to propose an amendment, but unfortunately I am going to. The amendment has been pre-notified into the office, so I'm hoping that Susan may be able to bring the wording up on the screen to help during the vote and debates. But effectively, it does bring all full councils meetings to 5:30 in the evening, so 17:30, regardless of what time of year it is. It also brings cabinet meetings to 14:30 all through the year. And also then the recommendation for audit and governance to be held at 17:30. I think the point has already been made here this evening that the one committee meeting or one meeting that every member is expected to attend is full council. And by moving them around during the year, we're going to be excluding new, younger members from joining this council. I take on board the comments made from colleagues in the corners of the county, which is why I'm hoping the compromise, we're trying to bring that forward slightly so that you can get home. I still know it won't be daylight, but a little earlier, may persuade some of you to support this amendment. At the end of the day, I understand this has been for a task and finish group. The decision, as I was advised from the chair of Audit and Governance, and I did sit on that task and finish group when I was able to attend, wasn't really a strong feeling either way and was open to debate tonight. So I do propose this amendment and hope that I will have a seconder in Councillor Nick Ireland.
Thank you. I'm going to keep sorry.
Could I just check, please, Councillor Hope? Are you proposing those amendments that are on the screen en bloc, and they either all stand together or all fail together, or do you wish to advance them as separate amendments to A, B, C, D, E?
As per the original recommendation, I propose that we take them one by one.
So I'm going to keep going and ask members that have indicated to speak, and then we'll sort through recommendations A to D, E, and anyone that wants to make propose an amendment before we vote, we'll take them one at a time. It's the only sensible way I feel of doing this. So we are Councillor Roberts.
Councillor Mark Roberts, Chesil Bank. Unlike some of my colleagues, I probably don't need to worry about missing a meal. But my concern is, for those of us with rural wards with many parishes, we're going to have to make a choice between whether we attend and represent our constituents in the evening or come to council. And I feel that this is a wrong move to disenfranchise our many parish councils. My 6 councils meet on Tuesdays and Wednesdays on the whole, which is when a lot of these meetings will be. So I cannot support that. Thank you.
Councillor Roberts. Councillor Kimber.
Thank you, Chair, fellow councillors. Councillor Paul Kimber, Portland. I'm supporting that we should keep full council in the evening. I'm not only thinking about councillors, but I'm thinking about the general public, the working public that may want to get here to raise an item. Now I know what your style. Yes, I understand it hasn't. Well, it is to get near Christmas, but and we could offer a bit of Christmas spirit. But I think, on the whole, what I feel is best. People will want to see us in action, and evenings, my feel, is that will be the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kimber. Councillor Kirby.
It's all right. I'm not speaking to any amendment or anything like that, so do not worry. It's, for me, Chair, it's just a comment about the paper. So I actually don't feel particularly strongly about the meetings for myself personally. I understand that a lot of these are, in terms of this meeting for council, these are meeting in public and not public meetings. But I do feel as if the Task and Finish group should have consulted with residents and other community groups in terms of what is the most appropriate time for Dorset Council to hold meetings so we can increase our level of engagement. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Kirby. Councillor Biggs. I had Councillor Biggs and Councillor Beer.
Thank you, Chairman. I think I can say that I've probably ticked all of the boxes regarding attendance of meetings, having worked 7 days a week, and then I take my day off from working at the weekend to come to meetings. I don't think that whatever we do, we're going to keep everybody happy. I've never had a car, so it means tonight I stay in a hotel here, which is great for the local economy, but there's no way I'd get home. Otherwise, we're never going to get it right. Obviously, for me personally, when I was working, okay, 2 o'clock might have been all right to get the afternoon off work. It's impossible to keep everybody and the public happy. We've just got to stab at it and see how it goes and see how it settles. As I say, I've ticked every box. It's great now I can stay in a hotel and have a decent night's sleep. But is that really right? I can't really afford it, but I do it. It's how it is. Yeah.
Thank you for your thoughts, Councillor Beer. Councillor Ireland.
I don't really have much to say other than to echo the view of many of our colleagues here that full council needs to be in the evening. I'm afraid, if it isn't, you essentially have to take 6 days unpaid leave or 6 days holiday, and all members should be at full council. This is where the really important decisions should be made, and people need to be accessible to come here.
Thank you, Councillor Ireland. I think only 2 meetings were proposed in the afternoon in the winter, but perhaps I've got that wrong. Councillor Gibson.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'm pleased to see the debate on this. As a councillor who's been elected since the age of 18, this has been a hobby horse of mine for a very long time. I'm sorry to see that Councillor Bartlett isn't in the chamber today, because him and I have shared a view on this for a very long time about the importance of evening meetings. I'm a working councillor. Many councillors are working. It's not just about who is in the chamber tonight, it's about who would want to be in the chamber in future. We need to make sure that the centrepieces are properly represented. And let's not pretend that the compromise is having some of full council in the afternoon and some in the evening. There's already a compromise. The compromise has been happening for a really, really long time. overview committee, scrutiny committees, planning committees, they are all during the day. And that's fine. That's a compromise. But when it comes to the big ticket items of full council, and I would also argue cabinet, I think the compromise, if it is truly a compromise, needs to see those in the evening. So I'll be supporting that. I respect tremendously Councillor Hope's attempt to try and find another compromise in the time, and I'm really tempted to support it. Apart from the fact that it's in danger, especially in the 5:30, of falling in the gap of still not being late enough to finish work. I'm an hour and 10 minutes away, and I'd love to finish work at 4 o'clock, but the boss just isn't having it. So for me, I think, yeah. So I think for me, it's really important to turn around and say to those that are of the working age, actually, for the really important bits, we've got your back. So for me, let's be clear. Let's not wait and see, because some of us have been waiting and seeing for a really, really long time. It's time to back evening meetings.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Councillor Coombs.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just thought it might be apposite to quote where we are in terms of the law. I have personally experienced difficulty at work when I first became a councillor. And by law, if you are working, your employer must allow you to take reasonable time off during working hours to perform your duties as a councillor. So I'm in full support of a variety of meetings, but I also am in support that members should be allowed to carry out their duties as a councillor without having to give up their own personal time when it is enshrined in law that you should be given time.
Thank you. I believe we had members of Cabinet wanted to speak on this.
Can we move the business, Chairman?
Fine, thank you. So we are, excuse me, sorry. You could keep quiet, actually, darling. Right. So we will go on to then the recommendation here that Council considers the recommendations of the Task and Finish Group and Audit and Governance Committee, taking into account the results of the members' survey, and considers the following timings in preparation for the calendar of meeting 2024-25. And this is A, during the period of British summertime, full council meetings will be held at 6:30 p.m, April, May, July and October.
Councillor Hope needs to move his amendment.
So, Councillor Hope, would you like to move your amendment on that?
I would like to move the amendment that we take A to include the full 12-month calendar at 17:30 hours, please.
I'm happy to second.
Okay, we will now vote on that amendment, please.
Can we switch to the... Oh, we need to stop sharing. Yeah. Councillors, the vote is now open. Councillor Bryan, would you mind voting for us again, please? Thank you. Thank you. The vote is now closed. The results of the vote are 22 in favour, 36 against, no abstentions. The amendment is lost. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. So we now move back to the substantive recommendation for A, the one that we've just discussed. During the period of British summertime, full council meetings will be held at 6:30 p.m, April, May, July and October. Please vote now. Sorry, Susan will tell us when to vote now.
Thank you, Chairman. The vote is now open. Councillor Biggs, could you vote for us again, please? Thank you. Councillor Gibson, could you vote for us again, please? Thank you. That's it. Thank you. The vote is now closed. The results of the vote are 47 in favour, 8 against, 3 abstentions. The recommendation is therefore carried. Thank you.
Right. We are now on B. During the period of Greenwich Mean Time, full council meetings will be held at 2 p.m, December and February. The amendment was lost. On A, do we have an amendment for B? Hang on. Councillor Lacey-Clark.
Yes, happy to propose, in vain with the amendment that was put up earlier, that on B, we change full council meeting to be held at 5:30 p.m. So it is still slightly earlier for those that don't like driving in the dark, but still allows as many members of the public as possible to come along if they wish to. Our job isn't to make our lives easy, it's to enable democracy to happen with as many people as possible.
Do you have a seconder for that proposal?
Chairman, could we just have clarity then that that's 5:30 during December and February?
Period of Greenwich Mean Time, full council meetings will be held at 5:30 p.m. December and February. That is the amendment. Okay.
Councillors, the vote is open. Thank you. Councillor Cook, could you vote for us again, please? Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. The vote is now closed. The results of the vote are 25 in favour, 32 against, 1 abstention. The amendment is lost.
Thank you. So we return to the substantive recommendation here that during the period of Greenwich Mean Time, full council meetings will be held at 2 p.m, December and February.
Just clarify.
Sorry.
Chairman, members, if I can just clarify that if you vote for that amendment, meetings will be at 2 p.m. If you vote against it, the meetings will return to 6:30 for the whole year.
The vote is now open. Yeah. Thank you. The vote is now closed. The results of the vote are 19 in favour, 39 against, no abstentions. Thank you. So, Chairman, that is lost, I'm afraid.
Could you repeat the number?
Yes, 19 in favour, 39 against, no abstentions.
Thank you very much. Right, on to C. So the recommendation is during the period of British summertime, Cabinet will be held at 6:30 p.m, April, May, June, July, September and October. Are we happy with that? No amendments?
Hang on. 2 o'clock. Yes, there is an amendment so proposed.
We're trying to get clarification as to has there been an amendment or not, please.
Yeah. Madam Chairman, I did propose the amendments which were seconded during the debate. I did call for them to be taken one at a time, so I wasn't sure whether I needed to re-present the amendment, but if needs be, I will present the amendment that Cabinet will be held at, for all year, 1,400 hours.
Thank you, Chairman. I really am uncomfortable with moving any meetings till halfway in the middle of the day, because that means that at the moment, 10 a.m. meetings mean that I can take half a day off work and come, which is fantastic, and then come to the meeting, go back and work in the afternoon. Same for an evening meeting. 2 p.m. completely changes the whole day, and so I cannot be supporting this, and I would really urge people not to, because it makes our lives much harder.
Okay, we do. Councillor Roberts.
Is it on? Yes. Could you clarify, please, if this motion is lost, do Cabinet meetings return to 10 a.m.?
Chairman, if I can just clarify, you're voting on the amendment which has been proposed by Councillor Hope. If that amendment is lost, you go back to the substantive. If the substantive motion is lost, you would go back to Cabinet at 10 a.m. If the motion is passed, you will have Cabinet meetings at 6:30 in April, May, June, July, September and October.
An amendment has been duly proposed and seconded, and we will now vote on that amendment, please. I can't even remember which one I'm on. So this is C. Cabinet.
23. Councillor Gibson, could you vote for us again, please? Councillor Penfold, would you mind voting for us again, please? Councillor Gibson, can you perhaps lift it up a bit? Oh, thank you. We've got it. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. The vote is now closed. The vote on the amendment, those in favour 11, 45 against, 2 abstentions. The amendment is lost.
Thank you. So we are now back to the substantive recommendation here, which was proposed originally and seconded. So we'll go to the vote on that, please.
Okay. The vote is now open.
Please, that says timing of committee meetings. I thought we were talking about timing of cabinet meeting only.
We are discussing a cabinet meeting. During the period of British summertime, cabinet will be held at 6:30 p.m. April, May, June, July, September, October. Thank you.
Councillor Haynes, would you mind voting for us again? And Councillor Kirby, would you mind voting? Thank you. Yeah, thank you. The vote is now closed. The results of the substantive motion are 29 in favour, 28 against, 1 abstention. That recommendation is carried. Thank you.
Hey, white knuckle. So we now move on to D. During the period of Greenwich Mean Time, Cabinet we held at 2 p.m, November, December, January, March. To be honest, I can't remember if we've got an amendment for this or not.
It's just a negative to it. If they disagree with it, he struck it through, so just be voting.
Great, thank you.
For or against?
We will just vote for or against on this, please.
Not listed.
Chairman, thank you so much. So as all of our full council meetings are at 6:30 at night, and near enough all of our cabinet meetings are at 6:30 at night, I would like to put an amendment forward that item D, we don't consider moving them to 2 p.m. We consider moving them to 6:30. To 6:30 at night to fit in with the rest of the calendar that's all at 6:30 at night.
Okie doke, members. We have sorry. We have an amendment to D, which has been duly seconded. Moving meetings to 6:30 p.m. for November, December, January, March. Councillor O'Leary.
I just want to make a very quick comment. I think it's absolutely disgusting. The thing we spent the entire talking about the most this evening is the attendance of our own committee meetings. I'm bloody well glad there's not members of the public here because I think it's a bloody disgrace.
Thank you, Councillor O'Leary. Some of us might agree with you. So we will go to the vote on the amendment, please.
Thank you. The vote is now open, councillors. You are voting for the amendment on D, which was proposed by Knocklacey Clark, which is to move to 6:30 p.m. Yeah. Councillor Coombs, would you mind voting for us again, please? Thank you. Councillor Rideout, would you mind voting for us again? Thank you. Yeah, thank you. The vote is now closed. The results of the amendment are 29 in favour, 29 against. The Chairman of Council has the casting votes.
Sorry, Chairman's casting vote. I'm against the amendment. So we will go back to the substantive recommendation now. D, during the period of Greenwich Mean Time, Cabinet will be held at 2 p.m, November, December, January and March.
And if you vote against, it goes back to 10 o'clock.
If you vote against, it goes back to 10 o'clock. Thank you.
The vote is now open. Councillor Gorringe, would you mind voting for us again, please? Yeah, thank you. The vote is now closed. The results of the vote are 17 in favour, 39 against, 2 abstentions. The recommendation is lost.
Moving smartly on, we're on E now. and that is that all meetings of the Audit and Governance Committee will be held at 6:30 p.m.
I think we have an amendment.
I'm not sure if we have an amendment or not on this.
Yes, we do.
Madam Chair, I did move the amendment for E. However, knowing the flavour in the room that 1730 isn't favourable, I will withdraw the amendment to leave it as printed in the aim to speed up the votes.
Thank you, Councillor. That's much appreciated. So we have no amendments put. We will go to the vote, please.
The vote is now open. Councillor David Gray, could you vote for us again, please? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. The vote is now closed. The results of the vote are 29 in favour, 27 against, 2 abstentions. The recommendation is carried. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm just trying to decide whether to have a short comfort break for 10 minutes or whether we can get the business done in half an hour. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 agenda items in half an hour, so it's up to you.
Keep going.
Keep going. Okie doke. That's fine. So, agenda item 17, calendar of meetings. Councillor Flower will introduce the report and propose the recommendation.
Proposed recommendation set out in the report, Chairman.
Councillor Shortell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. David Shortell, Westmore's the Three-Legged Cross. After that confusion, we're now going to vote on the calendar of meetings. I appreciate the work that's gone into doing that, and to find a suitable and convenient time for elected members, officers, and members of the public is very difficult. But I admire the work that's been done on that, and I would like to second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. The recommendation is that the Councillor Coombs.
Just a quick question of clarification, Madam Chairman. Should Monday the 5th of May 2025 become the early spring bank holiday, what provisions will be made to ensure that Strategic and Technical Planning Committee will be able to be held on a different day?
Recommendation 2, to ensure that effective political management authority be delegated to the Director of Legal and Democratic Services to make any necessary changes in consultation with relevant chairman and vice chairman. So that will sit nicely into that, okay? I'm going to put this straight to the vote then. Thank you.
The vote is now open. Councillor Biggs, could you vote for us again? Thank you. Councillor Jill Taylor, has Councillor Taylor left? She's gone. Okay. She's not here. Okay. Thank you. The vote is now closed. 56 in favour, no against, and 1 abstention. The recommendation is therefore carried.
Thank you. Agenda item 18, flexibility to hold licensing subcommittees. Councillor Flower to introduce.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I think this is an example of the learning from COVID, that we can do some of our business in a more flexible way and doing it virtually. I recognise there are some constraints in doing it, but I think it's worth giving this a 12-month trial to see how it operates, particularly around some of the panels that have to be brought together at fairly short notice. So I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Flower. Councillor Heatley.
Thank you, Chair. Can I second, as a member of Licensing Committee, it worked perfectly well during COVID for what was the bulk of them, public houses and so on. Could I just point out that because the legislation is different, this doesn't apply to taxi licensing. And actually, I wouldn't support it for taxi licensing because it's quite important to see the person. But otherwise, fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Beer.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry. Thank you, Chairman. I have to have an alternative view. I've chaired licensing for many years, and I found that during COVID, we formed a very different opinion of people than we did in a room speaking face to face. When we're talking about livelihoods and actually weighing up consequences that can have dire effect on people's lives, I think face to face is far more important. I did not find it very satisfactory during COVID, I have to say. It's so much better. You get the chance to speak candidly and ask proper questions when it's not remote. I wholeheartedly believe. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Beer. Councillor Kirby.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'd like to echo Councillor Beer's point, actually. I think that the one thing for me is that I understand it's a trial, but I just have my concern that it's up to the Chair of the Licensing Committee to be able to decide whether or not it will be online or not, if I'm reading it correctly. I believe that everyone has the right to come along and attend that meeting in person. I think this is people's livelihoods, and I feel as if they have a right to do that in person if they so request. So I think for me it would be a case of I'd like to perhaps change it so my recommendation would be that all parties have to support the meeting being online, and if any of the parties don't, then it should be held in person.
Is that an amendment, Councillor? Is that an amendment, Councillor?
Covered, then I withdraw it then, yeah, that's fine.
Sorry, I'm very confused. It's covered already. You've withdrawn. Okay, thank you. Councillor Andrews.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. As Vice Chairman of Licensing, I'd like to second what Councillor Farrer has proposed. I think this is something we need to do. We need to trial this to see if it does work. It worked during COVID. Many of us took part in loads and loads of subcommittees, chaired by various people that are in the room now, Les, myself, Emma that isn't here today. And it worked very well for premises licences, and as has already been mentioned, it can't be used for taxi licences. So I thoroughly recommend this proposal.
Sorry, thank you, Councillor. Right, it's already been seconded actually by Councillor Heatley, but that's fine. So the recommendation is, 1, the Council approves the 12-month trial period to give the licensing subcommittee the flexibility to meet virtually when appropriate to do so, and delegates to the licensing committee the authority to take a decision on whether this flexibility should continue and be made a permanent arrangement. And recommendation 2 is that delegation is given to the Director of Legal and Democratic Monitoring Officer to approve the virtual meeting protocol after consultation with the Chairman of the Licensing Committee and the Executive Director for place. And I'm now going to put this to the vote.
Yeah, the vote is now open. 5. Councillor Kirby, could you vote for us, please? Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. The vote is now closed. The results of the vote are 50 in favour, 7 against, no abstentions. The recommendations are carried.
Agenda item 19 is Honorary Alderman Councillor Flower to introduce the report and propose the recommendation.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Well, first of all, let's reflect on the fact that this is a recommendation from the Audit and Governance Committee, where this matter was, I believe, thoroughly debated, and the recommendations come forward to full council for ratification. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm hoping members have read the report, and I'm willing to move the recommendation as set out in the report.
Thank you, Councillor Flower. The recommendation is being seconded by me. And, sorry, was that a sneeze or was that, it was a sneeze. Bless you. And I reserve the right to speak last. So, Councillor Sutton, I've got here.
Pointed this is before us again just 18 months after members resoundingly voted against it, though I do note that this time there's no mention of older women. Have we actually regressed since last time round? Anyway, there's a new clause this time at 1.4, which I won't bother reading out. Nevertheless, this clause suggests that it will be good PR for us to agree this. I think quite the opposite. Agreeing this would make us look self-serving and anachronistic. It goes without saying that determining what constitutes an outstanding contribution could be controversial, time-consuming and divisive. Is that really a good use of our officers' time? Surely, as a councillor, your reward is knowing you've made a positive difference to people's lives. From a cost point of view, whilst £150 per title is tiny in the context of our overall budget, it's a huge amount to residents struggling to put food on the table and is therefore not a good look for us. Also, when we factor in hidden cost of staff time required to organise and facilitate meetings, etc., it starts to stack up. In this context, I think residents would be entitled to wonder why we are considering doing this, and I'm disappointed that we have been asked to vote on it again. If anyone has changed their mind since last time, I would be interested to know why. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sutton. Councillor Andrews. Councillor O'Leary.
You got confused because my ward's the best ward, not John's. I have not changed my mind. I still stand firm on this. To scrap the office of Alderman, which has been around in its current form since 1972 and in a different form long before that, would be another nail in the coffin of many traditions and part of the identity of this country. I mean, what would be next? Would it be MBEs, CBEs, other titles, mayoralships, Chelsea pensioners, Pearly Kings and Queens, or the monarchy? You know, I know those folks over there would like that, but I'm a staunch monarchist and support the House of Lords. But to scrap this office would just be another step to where we just become a sterile nation where we have nothing special. We think of the worth of everything, the value of nothing. I think it's a tiny cost in terms of what we're discussing. I actually believe it's 150 for 10 aldermanships based on the badge orders or whatever it is. But I think to honour certain councillors, I can think of many councillors who would merit this for their years of service, to be invited to services past there and not just to be tossed on the scrap heap and forgotten about. I think it's part of our heritage and part of our identity, and I know certain people would wish to see those things scrapped, but I don't. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Trite.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Bill Trite, Swanage. As we all know, it's becoming progressively more difficult to attract people into standing for elective office in local government. We all know that. I ask members to support this proposal because it will reward, in a small and inexpensive way, commitment, perseverance and achievement in public service. It is non-elitist and it gives people who endorse it, irrespective of their background, the opportunity and the incentive to gain a little bit of recognition for themselves through their own efforts and application in a form of long-term dedication, which is both worthwhile and necessary. Let us promote that opportunity rather than dismissing it. The cost is truly negligible, and we would, I'm sure, take care to ensure that this recognition process is transparent, rigorous, and absolutely fair. I do hope that you will support this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Trite. Any more, please? Councillor Kimber.
Thank you, Chair. Fellow councillors, Paul Kimber, Portland. I should be voting against this. I believe times have changed. We've got to bring ourselves forward. I'm thinking today, I was at the inquiry, and if anybody needs an award, it was our staff being cross-examined by a QC at times. And I really think, you know, this is placing ourselves over and above. Our reward is to serve our community. Thank you.
Councillor Biggs.
Yes, this did indeed, as the leader has said, go through audit and governance the second time. However, not all of us agreed with it, including myself. I changed my opinion, having seen it being lost at full council. I really didn't feel that it should come again. However, I was overruled, and that's democracy, and that's fine. But I really think this close to election, it's not a good look. We're not scrapping anything because it doesn't actually exist. We don't do it on this council. We're talking about bringing something in, an old thing, which may have been appropriate for old council. So I really can't support it. I think it's not a good look, with some saying 50 councillors perhaps retiring this time round, many losing their seats, etc. I think the public will just see, well, it's just giving out gongs for us, isn't it? Even though it's a small thing. So I can't support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Who have we got? Councillor Jesperson.
Thank you. Sherry Jesperson, Hillforts and Upper Clarence Ward. And I wasn't going to speak on this, but I have to say, I find the tone of this discussion a bit disappointing. Is it really the case that our public, for whom we work, would resent or would think we were on the make or on the take because those councillors who'd served for a very significant number of years and had given exceptional service were given a medal and recognition for that service by their fellow councillors? I think the money is not an issue, because I'm sure that if we were to say to those councillors who got the award, would you pay the £150 yourself? I'm sure they would. No councillor who doesn't want to be an alderman is obliged to take it. You can say, actually, it's not for me, no thank you. It seems to me that we're being, I'm trying not to use the word, but it's going to come out anyway, mealy-mouthed in our approach to this. We have colleagues who've served for 20 and 25 years as councillors, served their communities. And it's a small thing to say thank you to them on behalf of the community. And it's not a long service medal. It won't go to all 50. It will go to those people who've done exceptional service, as agreed by a panel. Seems to me a small thing to do, and we should do it.
Thank you, Councillor Jesperson. Councillor Shortell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. David Shortell, West Moors and Three-Legged Cross still. What we're doing is we're honouring the work that's been carried out. not a particular person, the work. And we're showing our appreciation for the dedication that some people has put into the work that's carried out. I'm in fully favour of that, and I should be supporting this. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I think I'm just going to have my say, if you don't mind. Right. I would like to thank the Audit and Governance Committee for their support in bringing this proposal to full council, even if you didn't really mean to. Sorry. For the last 3 years, I've been very proud to publicly represent you, my fellow councillors, and the whole council, officers and members, for the way this new Dorset Council has behaved and how we've worked together politically, cooperatively, and pragmatically. I don't suggest that we're perfect, but I do believe it's important to recognise and proclaim the good wherever possible, and not only the bad or worse features. Every parent here knows the importance of reinforcing good behaviour in our children and in our society. Within our wards, each of us supports and encourages volunteers, charities, enterprises and organisations who contribute their time, talent or skill for the benefit of our communities. Most of us attend Thanksgiving services, award ceremonies and similar events in recognition and gratitude for local heroes and others who are the lifeblood and glue of our society. Instinctively, we realise the importance of role models at every age and at every level, regardless of upbringing, gender orientation, or anything else, but simply for their service and their example. It is my very personal belief that this council should, before the end of its first term, establish what I will call a legacy award, as a method of recognising, thanking, and celebrating the best of us as councillors, their personal attributes, their consistency, their determination, and most of all, their outstanding service to their residents. They are those role models I spoke of, and many of them will be standing down in May next year. We need to encourage new talent to take up the baton of public service, show them the behaviours we value, and encourage those new councillors to follow the example that has been set by those who went before. I believe we have a duty, indeed responsibility, to create a mechanism, a beacon for the future, a simple, not grand gesture, a human gesture, celebrating individuals whose example we value and seek to reinforce for the future. So this proposed award is not just us saying thank you for being here, for being good party members, for being nice, for just being here so long. This award is intended as our means of thanking councillors on behalf of their local residents for the outstanding work they've carried out on their behalf. To have been continually re-elected for the suggested minimum term is surely evidence of the high regard a councillor is held in. Look around this chamber. I know it's a bit thin tonight, but look around this chamber, ignore if you can the personal or party prejudices, and you will all identify individuals who've worked tirelessly for their residents. I don't believe a round of applause or a bouquet of flowers is an adequate accolade on retirement from years of public service, and they deserve more from Dorset Council. For those of you who might feel concerned over the apparent lack of detailed criteria for the measurement of worthiness, what this proposal asks for is your support to establish the task, the mechanism of recognition of outstanding service. I do not believe we should confine future councillors to make awards based on a criteria established in 2023. The criteria outlined is just a framework. Lastly, there is the question of cost. I'm sure you must all be aware of my attitude to spending public money. Since becoming chairman, I've questioned every penny spent from my budget, and I've been particularly frugal. As an aside, the Dorset pin badges you all received, along with chocolate Valentine hearts and the chairman's biscuits, were and are paid for by me personally, not from my budget. I believe in being extremely prudent with public money. In fact, I'm often asked by chairmen from other local authorities why I've not been provided with a chauffeur and limousine. My answer is always the same. I don't need one, and I'd be unable to look our residents in the eye and justify the cost and privilege of having one. We must never forget that we are elected to serve. There is so much agreement in what you've said this evening. Anyway, so I can assure members that the cost of this proposed award is minimal, the simple, not grand gesture. Certificates and badges have already been allocated for in my budget, and no special ongoing privileges are offered. There would be no extra burden on our council tax. Our residents, the people we serve, are not in a position to show their gratitude and appreciation to a long-standing councillor who has served them well. But we are, and we should, on their behalf. I believe that many of you feel that this is the right thing to do, and I'd be sincerely grateful for your support in this proposal. If you feel vehemently against it for personal reasons, then of course you must vote against it. But I would ask, if there's any doubt in your mind, that you please abstain rather than vote it down. So if there are no questions arising from my comments, we will now go to the vote. Thank you. Councillor Lacey-Clark.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not going to make a big speech. I think people are already aware of my views on this. My one question, how does this help our residents? That's it.
All I can say is it shows them that we listen to them. They re-elect certain members term after term. That demonstrates, doesn't it, as I've said, how much that person is valued in their communities. And I think by giving a badge and a certificate, we're just supporting that. As I said, they don't have the opportunity to show their gratitude, but we can on their behalf. I hope that answers your question.
The vote is now open. Yeah. Councillor Gorringe, would you mind voting for us again, please? Yeah. Thank you. The vote is now closed. The results of the vote are 37 in favour, 16 against, 3 abstentions. The recommendation is carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that support. We need now to extend the meeting. We need to vote. Show of hands, please, to extend our meeting to finish the business. Carried. Thank you very much. I don't know where I am anymore. Right. Agenda item 20, election of chairman of Northern Area Planning Committee. To elect a chairman of the Northern Area Planning Committee, and I'm going to ask Councillor Flower for his proposal, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to propose Councillor Belinda Rideout, and I believe it's been seconded.
Councillor Penfold.
Thank you, Chairman. I have great pleasure in seconding this nomination. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a second recommendation. Councillor Ireland. Sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to second Councillor John Andrews' proposal. Sorry, it's a long night, isn't it? Sorry. John, you all know John. He's done a great job being Vice Chair of Licensing, which involves chairing meetings regularly. And I think, by this chamber giving him the job for the next 4 months of this council would really show a commitment to cross-party working.
Thank you, Councillor Ireland. Councillor Fry.
Yeah, I'd like to second Councillor John Andrews, please. He's been a popular member on the Northern Planning, a regular attendance, and done a really good job, and he would do a good job as chair.
Thank you very much. I don't think we're going to have testimonials. I think we'll just go for the vote if everybody's happy to do so.
Councillors, the vote is now open. Please press 1 for Councillor Rideout, 2 for Councillor Andrews, and 3 if you wish to abstain. Thank you. Thank you. The vote is now closed. The results of the vote are 33 votes in favour of Councillor Rideout, 22 in favour of Councillor John Andrews, no abstentions. Therefore, Councillor Rideout has been elected chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. We now, agenda item 21, notice of motion. Many of you will have realised that Councillor Quayle has got COVID, unable to be here this evening. I know, isn't it sad? So, no, I didn't mean it to sound sarcastic. I didn't mean it to sound sarcastic. I promise I didn't. I'm damned if I do or don't hear. So, I'm going to ask Councillor Lacey Clark to propose this motion, please.
Thank you, Chairman. As you can see, Councillor Quayle is here virtually, sadly, unable to be in the room, much to his disappointment. I know he's been working on this motion for a considerable amount of time. So, the motion itself, Chairman. Dorset Council is committed to supporting local farmers and food producers. Britain has some of the highest animal welfare standards in the world, and Dorset Council should engage and work in partnership with our poultry, arable and livestock farmers to ensure their ability to enhance our countryside and with our fishing industry to protect the oceans. We need to strive to support them by being sympathetic to diversification opportunities and promotion of local produce. We will be vocal in opposing excessive regulation by central government, enabling them to prosper. Keeping in mind our commitment to climate change, Dorset Council should, wherever possible, commit to ensuring food provided at all council events is sourced from local suppliers. This includes meat, fish, dairy and plant-based produce. Dorset Council should also encourage people, wherever possible, to shop locally, taking advantage of homegrown, affordable and nutritious food, both plant and meat-based, thus reducing the food miles on our plates. I will withhold my technical chance to speak till the very end. Councillor Quayle would love to speak on this behalf, and I think we should allow him. And I'm really pleased the voting system's working again, because for these sorts of motions to have the most impact, I would ask for it to be a recorded vote, and that's much easier as it's just pushing the buttons. We don't actually have to ask everyone individually. So I hope you have that support, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Lacey Clark. I'm going to ask Councillor Roberts to second the motion.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Councillor Mark Roberts, Chesilbank Ward. I feel particularly qualified and proud to support this motion. I sit on Dorset Council's Farms Liaison Committee, and so I know that this will be very well supported amongst our 40-odd council farming tenants who do such a fantastic job in the husbandry of the council farming estate. I also am the chair of the Southern Inshore Fisheries and Conservation Authority and chair of the Harbours Committee, which of course has a thriving fishing fleet in each of our 3 harbours. And nationally, I represent Dorset on the Local Government Association's Coastal Special Interest Group, where I'm their national member champion for both the fishing industry and marine conservation. and this motion chimes with all of our aims and ambitions for agriculture, fishing and the oceans. I'm happy to second.
Thank you very much, Councillor Roberts. I will just say, Councillor Lacey-Clark, we will need 10 people to support a named vote. A show of hands, please. Oh, I think that'll do, won't it? Smashing. So before we go any further, I'm going to ask Councillor Byron Quayle to join us virtually because he's been working on this and we all feel really sorry, and I'm sorry that I sounded unsympathetic.
Thank you, Chairman. Can you hear me? Thank you, Chairman. Food security is one of the most important issues facing Dorset and the nation as a whole. Simply, our farmers and food producers are facing breaking point pressures. Our farmers deliver quality, fresh, seasonal and affordable food to a world-leading environmental and welfare standards. However, agriculture has become less profitable and the industry is in decline. We live in an ever-expanding country that needs feeding. With risk to global supply chains, it is our farmers and our food producers that will be required to provide for this demand. If this industry is not supported now, we simply won't have the capacity to meet this need in the future. Dorset Council, although a very small part in a wider local and national government framework, can be and should be Dorset farming and food producing champions. This is not only important economically, but it has a fundamental impact across every level of our society. The NFU state, by committing to secure at least 50% of food into the public sector from British farms, a future government can utilise its own food provision as a mechanism to build resilience and growth in the domestic food production. By championing our local Dorset product through this motion, Dorset Council can support this objective. The NFU go on to say, too often the planning system can act to make the rural economy less sustainable, preventing farm modernisation, diversification and house building for farm workers. In some cases, blanket environmental requirements mean that development is refused, a perverse outcome when development would make a farm business more sustainable, reduce environmental footprint, create jobs, and promote green growth across the sector. We need central government to create right policy for the environment, yes, to enable our farmers to invest in their futures. However, as the local champion here in Dorset, we should be supporting these aims and our farmers and food producers to create more employment opportunities to boost our rural communities and economy. Therefore, Madam Chairman, I see this as the first step showing our support for our local farmers and food producers, where we would personally commit to use local produce, which includes meat, fish, dairy and plant-based produce, to oppose excessive regulation that would prevent our farmers and food producers from taking the steps required to secure our future. Madam Chairman, I would therefore urge all members to support this motion, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Quayle. Right, Councillor Jesperson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Councillor Sherry Jesperson, Hillforts and Upper Tarrants Ward. And I'm really very pleased indeed to support this motion in support of Dorset's farmers and our farming communities. Sustainable food production and environmental protection go hand in hand. We need the skills and capabilities of our farmers and their willingness to diversify to address the impact of climate change and biodiversity depletion. Farmers, like those I have in my ward in Derweston, are pioneering methods of land and livestock management, which, as well as producing quality food, can reverse soil degradation and improve water quality and species abundance. Now, farmers face challenges from energy costs and heat waves and droughts and floods as our climate changes, and they need our support. The importance of food security in its role in tackling climate change is being recognised. Food security, interestingly, was on the agenda at COP for the first time this year. And the Environmental Audit Committee just last week calls for ELMS to support food security as a public good alongside improvements to the environment. So, Madam Chairman, this motion is both welcome and timely, and I'm very pleased to support it.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Backstone.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I will be brief. As Chairman of the County Farms Liaison Panel, very much welcome this proposal, this motion, which I'm delighted to support. My ward is also very much a farming ward, including the Vale of the Little Dairies, which may ring a bell with some people. And it just amuses me that we're talking very much about food production and we're salivating, and the main concern we've got with our farms at the moment is slurry disposal and dirty water. But thoroughly support this motion. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Backstone. Councillor Clayton.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Kelvin Clayton, Bridport. There's a lot that's really commendable in this motion, not least of which it's support for local food and local food producers. I think it could be improved by at least accepting that we need to move away from meat and dairy. But the stumbling block for me is just one sentence, and that is the sentence, "We will be vocal in opposing excessive regulation by central government." My reason is, first of all, the word excessive is too ambiguous. What's excessive for one person on one side of the political spectrum is absolutely essential for somebody on the other side. But most importantly, we will require government leadership and regulation to counter the effects of industrial farming methods, and that's what is really going to hold back local food production. So, at the risk of groans from the chamber, I want to move an amendment. Exactly the same wording, just that we cut out the sentence that starts, "We will be vocal in opposing excessive regulation." Thank you.
Do you have a seconder? Thank you, Belinda. Sorry, Councillor Beddoe, would you like to speak to the amendment?
Councillor Beddoe is speaking to the substantive.
Okay.
So do you want to go to the vote on the amendment?
Well, we could, except that we've got Councillor Took and Councillor David Taylor that wants to speak first. Councillor Took.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor David Took from Cranbourne and Alderholt ward, which is a very rural ward. I have a lot of farmers in my ward, and I think this motion supports them, and I would like to support this motion. Thank you.
Are you supporting the motion or the amendment, sir?
I thought we were still talking about the motion.
No. Amendment's been proposed to change the wording on the second paragraph to say we need to strive to support them by being sympathetic to diversification opportunities and promotion of local produce. The amendment is to propose to delete, "We will be vocal in opposing excessive regulation." So that's what we're, okay. Unless, would anybody like to speak to this amendment, please?
I actually put my hand up to speak before that was proposed.
And me.
So.
And me.
Yes, Having read the motion, I support, like the 95% of what's in there. I think our farmers do a fantastic job. But I would say the reason we got really good farming standards and animal welfare is because of regulation. Regulations shouldn't be seen as a bad thing. We can all pick and choose which regulations, but many of those came from Europe. Most of them are good. Perhaps some could be amended. But the danger of embracing and importing food from all over the world is that we will have to sort of drop our standards to compete with Australia and South Africa and wherever else. So I think it's absolutely really important to take that wording out. So I would support that amendment, but I agree with the sentiments of the motion.
Thank you. I've got somebody else here. Speaking to the amendment, I've got Councillor Kimber.
Thank you very much, Councillor Paul Kimber, Portland. I just wonder, I'm happy to support the amendment, and I'm glad it's been highlighted, because I just had this sudden vision of the Conservative group all jumping on a bus when there's some to go up to Parliament and protest about some sort of changes in farming practices. And it's right. I would say it's right that we remove that part. Thank you.
Thank you. Look, if members don't mind at this late hour, I'm going to put this amendment to the vote. Okay. You all know what the amendment is. It's the removal of, we will be voting in opposing excessive regulation by central government. Thank you.
The vote is now open. John Andrews has gone out, and he's number 3, 29, no, 38. No. Oh. Thank you. The vote is now closed. The votes in respect of the amendment are 16 in favour, 39 against, no abstentions. The amendment is lost. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. I do have Councillor Taylor and I do have 3 or 4 to speak. Would anybody mind if we just went to the vote, please? Thank you very much. If I don't want to cut short, this is democratic process, and I don't want anyone to feel they were shortchanged. Councillor Sutton.
I assume the proposer and the seconder will have seen the article in the Daily Mail. I just wanted to ask, did you feel that the Daily Mail article reflected the sentiment behind the motion? That's all.
Respect, Councillor Sutton. I'm not sure that's very relevant at this moment. But I don't want for this whole floor to open up for another 40-minute discussion. So we're going to the vote. Thank you.
Can I talk?
You're on. Oh, okay. Right. Who hasn't voted? Councillor Alford, could you vote for us again, please? And Councillor Harrison, would you mind voting? Thank you. 2. Oh, it's gone now. 26. Okay. Sorry, Councillor Harrison, would you mind? We're not receiving it. Thank you. Thank you very much. The vote is now closed. The results, 48 in favour, 3 against, 4 abstentions. The notice of motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. So, agenda item 22, there are no urgent items. We have no exempt business. Happy Christmas, everyone, and a healthy new year.